Maintaining her poised persona, she moved forward with elegant strides, setting out to locate the heir to the throne of Landis. Before heading downstairs, she had gone through the royal family's background brief. There were only 5 royal heirs acknowledged by the old king, 4 princes and 1 princess. Crown Prince Samuel, 37 years old, was born to the late Queen Mother Princess Isabella, of pure royal blood. He currently oversaw Landis's banking and taxation systems. Prince Julian, 28, the elder of the twin boys born to the second queen, Grace, a former film star. He managed tourism and sporting events. Prince Colin, 28, the younger twin son of Queen Grace. He was in charge of royal security. Princess Serena, 28, daughter of Queen Mother Princess Isabella and likewise of unblemished royal lineage. She supervised charities and cultural undertakings. Prince Karen, 26, whose mother's identity remained unknown. Rumor claimed his mother had been an air hostess, and he was the sole child from the old king's extramarital affairs to receive official recognition. He administered ports and maritime trade. Judging from the profiles, Crown Prince Samuel wielded the greatest power among the 5 heirs. Control over banking and taxation meant holding the nation's economic lifeline. Next stood Prince Karen. Though he came from the humblest background, he had secured authority over ports and sea-borne commerce. Princes Julian and Colin held roughly equal influence. As twins, should they unite behind a single candidate, their chances of prevailing would be considerable. Lastly came Princess Serena. Royal tradition tended to assign female heirs to charity and cultural sectors. Her odds of claiming the throne were slim, and Suyao wondered whether she would fully back Crown Prince Samuel. Lost in these thoughts, Suyao kept walking. At that moment, the elderly steward appeared. "Miss Su, are you searching for their royal highnesses?" Suyao nodded. "Their highnesses will arrive shortly. Please wait a moment." With those words, the steward poured her a glass of champagne. Turning his back to the crowd, he slipped an envelope onto the small round table before her. "This message is for you, delivered on behalf of Crown Prince Samuel." He bowed toward her, then departed carrying his tray. Suyao blinked in surprise. What was the Crown Prince thinking? Why send a note in secret instead of speaking to her face to face? Blooms in a vase concealed her movements. Shielded by the flowers, she opened the letter. 10 o'clock this evening. Meet me in the golf lounge. Samuel. As she finished reading, she sensed someone drawing near. Swiftly, she stowed the letter away in her spatial storage. Su Muja, how about an alliance? I hold information on Princes Julian and Colin. Jingxian had kept his eyes trained on Su Muja ever since entering the banquet hall. Convinced that Su Muja, the top-ranked player across the whole server, possessed extraordinary capabilities, he had stepped forward to propose cooperation. Suyao held her wine glass and smiled at Jingyan. Master Daoist, why don't you cast a divination and foretell who will successfully inherit the throne? That would save us both so much running about. Good heavens! Jingxian drew a sharp breath. Miss, destiny follows its own course. It lies far beyond what a humble fortune teller may perceive. Setting down her glass, Suyao's expression turned serious. Very well, tell me what you know. Jingxian leaned closer and lowered his voice. The mother of Princes Julian and Colin died 15 years ago in a mysterious car crash. Word spreads among Landis's people that the late queen may have stumbled upon terrible secrets and was silenced for it. Suyao pondered for a moment. Does that story strike you as familiar? Jingxian frowned. Have you already heard this? This dungeon bears similarities to our original world, more like a parallel dimension. 20 years ago, the Princess of the Sun, Set's kingdom also perished in a car accident, Suyao remarked casually. Now you mention it, that does ring a bell, Jingxian mused. Royal skeletons in the closet are not our priority. We need to pick a side, Suyao steered the conversation back on track. Jingxian volunteering intelligence demonstrated good faith. Whether his words were true or false, Suyao intended to verify everything that night. I shall investigate tonight. I will get back to you afterward. Before Jingxian could reply, attendants swung open the grand doors to the banquet hall. Every gaze turned toward the entrance. A man with golden hair and blue eyes, dressed in a black satin-colored tailcoat, entered on the arm of a woman in a flowing emerald green gown. Let us welcome His Royal Highness Crown Prince Samuel and Her Royal Highness Princess Serena of Landis, the steward announced in a powerful voice, stirring excitement among the guests. Applause broke out. The crown prince and princess offered polished smiles, greeting the assembled crowd. "Welcome, distinguished guests from across the globe, to Landis," said Samuel, his deep voice carrying the composed cadence of royalty. His gaze swept over the room and locked instantly on Suyao, who stood out among all present. His smile widened, yet warmth never reached his eyes. He picked up a glass of champagne from a servant's tray and raised it toward her. "May you all enjoy your stay in Landis." Princess Serena echoed him. "May you all enjoy your stay in Landis." Another round of applause erupted. Suyao understood the meaning behind Samuel's glance: unbridled, determined ambition. No matter how affable and gentle some people pretended to be, their condescending disdain for ordinary folk could not be hidden. Suyao wondered how the crown prince regarded Grace, the actress, queen who had supplanted his mother. If she had been in Samuel's position, her heart would hold nothing but resentment, mixed with forced compromise toward public influence and fame. The old king had abandoned his first wife to marry a movie star. Their nationally broadcast wedding had brought enormous wealth and opportunity to the realm. She suspected that Samuel intended to follow his father's example and wed a woman of immense public influence. The internationally renowned supermodel Su Muja, with over 100 million followers across social platforms, fit that description perfectly. Marrying her would greatly improve his chances of winning the old king's approval for the throne. As for Princess Serena, Suyao had hoped to detect signs of ambition that might drive her to compete against her brothers. Yet her observations suggested she functioned merely as her elder brother's satellite, mirroring all his actions. Even if Suyao poured every resource into backing her, Samuel would seize the fruits of victory in the end. Princess Serena was therefore ruled out. "Steward, the banquet has been underway for quite some time. When shall my younger brothers make their appearance?" The crown prince's tone held faint irritation. Before the steward could answer, a lazy voice cut through the room. "Samuel, your eyes must be failing you. How could you overlook your own brother?" A tall, imposing figure rose from a sofa against the hall wall. Unlike the crown prince, this prince had voluminous reddish, brown curls, light, brown eyes, a high, bridged nose and long, thick lashes, a strikingly handsome man with untamed charisma. Standing, he towered even above Samuel. None of the players, including Suyao, had noticed him sitting in the corner. No one knew how long he had been observing them. Cold dread prickled the backs of every player's necks. Each silently replayed their recent conduct, fearing they had broken character or said something inappropriate for the NPC to overhear. Crown Prince Samuel glared coldly at Prince Karen. "How uncouth. Karen, your court manners leave much to be desired. Perhaps father ought to discipline you." Prince Karen showed not the slightest fear. A mocking smirk tugged at his lips. "Uncouth, am I? Then go run to father and tattle, your highness, nearly 40-year-old Samuel." You insolent." Samuel's retort remained unfinished as the banquet doors swung open once more. Visibly relieved, the steward hurried toward the entrance and called out, "Let us welcome His Royal Highness Prince Julian and His Royal Highness Prince Cullen." Suyao looked across the crowd toward the doorway. Every member of this royal house was undeniably striking. The twin princes had inherited their mother, the film star's, good looks. In Suyao's estimation, they possessed the same dashing charm as young Hollywood icons. The old king's generation boasted fine genes. Every prince and princess was exceptionally handsome. Landis scarcely needed a grand royal wedding, Suyao thought to herself. They ought to broadcast a throne contest live and let audiences vote for their preferred candidate. Still, royalty was far too proud for such undignified spectacles. While her mind wandered, the twins finished greeting guests. When she refocused, Prince Karen stood directly before her. "Ms. Su, I have long admired you. I am a great fan. Might I have your autograph?" His eyes fixed intently on her face, sharp and probing, as if attempting to peer straight into her soul. Suppressing unease, Suyao smiled back. "Certainly. Where would you like me to sign?" Prince Karen pulled a pen from his overcoat pocket and handed it to her. Then he unbuttoned his outer coat to reveal a crisp white dress shirt underneath. "Sign right here. I shall preserve the shirt as a keepsake." "It would be my pleasure," Suyao replied. She took the pen and boldly scrawled her signature across his chest. A deep laugh rumbled in Karen's chest, his torso shaking so much Suyao nearly ruined her writing. "Hold still," she chided, giving his arm a light tap. He composed himself. Their exchange drew the attention of surrounding guests. Samuel, Julian, and Colin, who had been conferring with advisors, glanced over. Upon seeing the signature on Karen's shirt, they turned away again. Prince Karen guided Xiao out onto the open air deck. Gentle sea breezes swept across Landis's pleasant evening. Stand with me. I shall win this struggle for the throne. Su Yao raised an eyebrow. You are that confident? Samuel has Serena on his side, and Julian and Colin stand united. What resources do you possess? I have you, Karen answered. Su Yao rolled her eyes. Noticing her reaction, Karen dropped his playful tone and grew serious. You are aware Landis relies heavily on its service-driven economy. Years ago, the old king capitalized on public fame through his marriage to the actress, Queen. That strategy will no longer sustain our nation. If you align with Samuel, he will exhaust all your value and cast you aside afterward. Why should I place my trust in you? Su Yao asked. Karen gestured toward the wide ocean stretching before them. Because of the sea. Su Yao looked confused. Having been born outside the palace, you may not know. Before the royal family acknowledged me, I once sailed as a privateer. Later, I founded a maritime trading enterprise with my crew. Every nation on this planet borders the ocean, and all depend on my company for shipping. We transport far more than ordinary goods. Weapons and ammunition also move through my networks. Now tell me, Su Muja, do you believe I can prevail? Su Yao had imagined Karen only managed Landis's local port trade. Instead, he controlled extensive global sea routes and held steady access to arms. He might even seize power through direct force. She viewed his formal induction into the royal family in a brand new light. You could win. Yet it seems you might succeed without my assistance at all, Su Yao said honestly. Karen tilted his head and grinned roguishly. I still need you. For the next 2 days, mislead Crown Prince Samuel for me. Tomorrow I have critical business to attend to and will be absent from the Nord. Su Yao frowned, weighing whether he could be trusted. When will you return? I shall do my utmost to be back before the Nord docks. Su Yao spoke calmly. Understand that I may switch my allegiance to another heir at any moment. Karen laughed. I guarantee you will find the others lacking. Samuel is weak-willed. Julian and Colin have endured mockery over their mother's background for years. Their sights are set firmly on foreign princesses for marriage. That explained why the twin princes had made no immediate effort to approach her. They had no interest in courting her. I shall consider your proposal. We will speak more upon your return. She gave no definite commitment, needing to test whether his claims held truth. Karen showed no displeasure over her hesitation. Very well. Oddly enough, it feels as though we have known each other for ages. Su Yao was taken aback by the comment. Such lines felt like shallow flirtation. For someone so sharp-minded, his social overture seemed strangely clumsy. Noticing her perplexed expression, Karen's amusement grew. He meant no disrespect. The sense of familiarity was genuine. It is as though we have talked like this in another world, he added. Su Yao paused for 2 seconds, then smiled faintly. Perhaps we met in a past life. Having gathered what information she could, Su Yao returned inside the banquet hall. She spotted Jingxian surrounded by Princes Julian and Colin, deep in discussion. Nearby, Crown Prince Samuel and Princess Serena drew a crowd of players, almost like candidates at a job fair. Among those currying favor with Samuel stood her former acquaintance Fanny Bing. She had nearly forgotten about him until this survival game dungeon brought them together. Back when Xiao was a university freshman, misfortune had struck her household. Both her parents had passed away, and greedy relatives seized the family business. Overnight, she had fallen from wealth to destitution. Buried in legal battles against her kin, she could devote little attention to her new boyfriend. One day, while running errands, she spotted Fan Yibing walking arm in arm with another young woman outside a luxury hotel. Suspicious, she gave one of her trusted bodyguards a hotel VIP pass and instructed him to follow the pair. The observant bodyguard captured footage of them checking into a room together. They emerged side by side the next morning at 7. Investigations confirmed the young woman was a wealthy fellow student with no blood relation to Fan Yibing. Repulsed, Su Yao had broken off their relationship immediately. They had not crossed paths again, not even during past survival game scenarios. Fan Yibing could definitely be ruled out as the father of Su Yao's unborn child. Pulling her thoughts back to the present, Su Yao sampled small pastries while continuing to observe those around her. Presently, Prince Colin approached her holding a glass of champagne. Ms. Su Muja, it is an honor. I am your admirer. He raised his glass as if proposing a toast. I cannot drink alcohol. I am expecting a child, Su Yao replied. Prince Colin's confident smile froze. He stared in shock toward her midsection. Miss Sue, are you jesting? I am quite serious. The identity of the child's father remains unknown. Would you mind if I drink fruit juice instead? She picked up a juice glass and clinked it lightly against his champagne. Your Highness, what brings you over? Colin found himself in an awkward predicament. His plan with Julian had been straightforward. Julian would marry a princess from the Kingdom of Moro to cement royal legitimacy, while Colin would wed the globally famous supermodel Sue Muja to secure immense public influence. Once Julian sat securely on the throne, Sue Muja would have outlived her usefulness after giving birth and could be disposed of. Colin could then marry another princess as a high-ranking royal prince. Everything had unraveled. The world-famous supermodel was with child with no confirmed father. For a royal prince to marry a woman in her position would invite widespread ridicule. How had Landis's intelligence service missed such vital information? He swallowed the prepared speech he had intended to deliver and resolved to consult his brother Julian. Nothing of great importance. Merely wishing to exchange greetings. He glanced artificially at his wristwatch. It grows late. Excuse me, I wish you a pleasant evening. Of course. Farewell. As Colin departed, Su Yao sneered inwardly. He lacked resolve, too cowardly to accept complicated circumstances, let alone pursue kingship. Not that she intended to marry any of these princes. Handsome as the twins were, they lacked wisdom. Most players at the banquet favored Crown Prince Samuel or Prince Julian. Only those rejected by the major factions sought out Prince Karen. Every player must select a royal heir before the Nord reached shore. Failure to do so meant elimination from the game. Many players overlooked one critical detail, however. This was a two-way selection process. Consequently, Prince Karen treated most approaching players with marked indifference. After the third prince left, Siya had brief conversations with quite a few players. Most players were curious about her, the top-ranked player across all servers. Still, to keep their in-game personas intact, none of them asked questions that deviated from the main plot. Likewise, no one managed to dig up private information about one another. As the banquet drew to a close, Su Yao planned to head back to her room to rest before keeping her appointment with the first prince at 10 o'clock that night. Prince Samuel had been keeping a close eye on Sue Muja's movements. He had witnessed the fifth prince, then the third prince, strike up conversations with her. He had not expected his normally unruly youngest brother to take such initiative, and a flicker of unease stirred within him. Among all his brothers, it was neither the second nor the third prince he feared most. It was Prince Karen, the fifth prince, who had been brought back to the Kingdom of Lantis at the age of 17. He still clearly remembered their very first encounter. Bound in the Grand Central Hall stood a red-haired youth, on trial before the royal court. The nobles railed that as the king's own blood, Karen ought never to have taken up the dishonorable trade of piracy. Mid-stream of their tirade, the youth somehow broke free of his restraints. Drawing a blade, he seized a senior royal counselor as a hostage. Release my crew or this man dies. The drama ended with Karen's pirate crew permitted to sail free, and Karen himself returning to the royal household. From that day onward, everyone knew Karen was reckless, capable of lethal violence, and no one dared provoke him. Back then, Samuel had wondered why their father would keep such an untamed beast close at hand. The king had merely smiled and said, "Remember, Samuel. To rule this nation, you must understand that every person holds some value you can make use of." Nearly 10 years had passed since that day. Just as his father had foreseen, after Karen took charge of maritime trade, Lantis transformed from a nation dependent on foreign shipping into a dominant maritime power known across the seas. Yet Lantis's growing sea power brought Samuel no joy. Instead, anxiety gnawed at him. He worried their father might name the fifth prince heir, for Karen possessed extraordinary leadership talent. He feared Karen had grown into a force so formidable he could shake the foundations of the kingdom at will. Had their revered father, the great king of Lantis, also begun to sense the threat posed by his youngest son? Though Samuel privately looked down on his second, third, and fifth brothers, he could not deny that only Karen filled him with genuine dread. As for the second and third princes, in his eyes they were nothing more than ornamental figures, hardly worthy of his attention. The banquet came to an end. The second prince was pulled away by the third prince, as if the pair had urgent matters to discuss. The fifth prince never stayed overnight on the cruise ship. He departed by helicopter. After bidding his sister farewell, the first prince arrived early at the golf lounge to await Sue Muja. Just then, heavy knocks boomed against the door. Thud, thud, thud. The knocking was clearly not that of a woman. Who is it? Your Highness, something terrible has happened downstairs. When Suyao hurried down, royal guards were already at the scene. Sporadic drops of blood dotted the floor. She turned to Taoist Jingxian beside her. What happened? This woman was dissatisfied with her lower deck accommodation and demanded to swap for a double cabin on the first deck. The two ended up fighting. Suyao glanced over. One of the disheveled women with a split, bleeding lip was none other than Fan Yibing's teammate. Ms. Bing Wanan, Ms. Tang Haimeo, please come with us, the guard captain ordered in an unyielding tone. So Fan Yibing's teammate went by the inn, game ID Bing Wanan. It seemed plausible the two had matching couple-themed usernames. At that moment, the victim, Tang Haimeo, spoke up. Why should I be taken away when I was attacked and my cabin demanded from me? You ought only to arrest Bing Wanwan, the one who started it all. Anger made Tang Haimeo's voice shake. Madam, it is late hours for rest. Your altercation will disturb everyone aboard, replied the guard captain. Bing Wanwan had intended to throw a tantrum and resist arrest, but her face was swollen and her lip torn, leaving her without the strength to shout. Once the two women were led away, the crowd in the hall gradually dispersed. Suyao checked the clock. It was exactly 10 o'clock. She walked toward the elevator. Hey, Su Muja, wait for me. Jingxian quickened his pace and caught up with her. The elevator doors slid shut. Jingxian could barely hold back the news he wanted to share. I've found out about the second. Suyao held a finger to her lips, signaling him to fall silent. She nodded toward the security camera mounted inside the elevator car. Jingxian understood instantly and clamped his mouth shut, not uttering another word. When they reached the third floor, Suyao stepped out. I'll find you later. Jingxian nodded obediently. Go on then. The golf lounge door stood ajar. Suyao knocked once softly. Come in. My apologies, Your Highness Samuel, for being late. The first prince turned around, set down his golf club and smiled. Waiting for a lady of your beauty is no burden at all. Please take a seat, Miss Su. Seated, Suyao wasted no time. It was growing late, and she saw no point in beating around the bush. Your Highness, I shall be frank. Both the fifth and third princes have laid out very tempting offers. Tell me, what advantages can you bring to this negotiation? In truth, the third prince had never actually stated any terms. But in negotiations, bluffing was a useful tactic to force one's opponent to reveal their bottom line. Samuel had rarely spoken with a woman so direct. No wonder she was a world-famous celebrity. Su Muja certainly had leverage. Should she reject Lantis, she could easily marry the ruler of some other realm. Certain kings might even divorce their existing spouses for the benefits an alliance with her would bring. Still, after 30+ years as a prince, Samuel would not be intimidated by her bold bearing. His tone softened, his gaze turning warm. What if I told you our father, King Augustus, has long already settled on me as his successor? Marry me, and you will become the future Queen of Lantis. Does that count as a compelling advantage? Interest flickered in Suyao's eyes. She leaned forward slightly. Oh? How so? Though they speak of fair competition, it is all an illusion. When my mother wed into Lantis, a formal treaty was signed stipulating that the crown must pass to her children. Should our father break that promise, the kingdom of Linghai will march its armies into Lantis to place me upon the throne. Suyao was stunned. King Augustus was a master manipulator who had played every single one of them for pawns. In his youth, he had married a princess with powerful family connections to serve as his political shield. After their divorce, he wed a huge celebrity, bringing boundless wealth and opportunity to the kingdom. Once power and riches were secured, he indulged his personal whims, fathering children across the court. In his later years, he set his sons against one another, letting them struggle for power while he reaped all the gains. When his time came, the throne would pass to the legitimate first prince. Suyao suspected the king's reported illness was entirely feigned. If his scheme succeeded, Lantis could enjoy decades, even centuries, of continued prosperity. It was a self-sustaining political cycle future kings could repeat. Had she not already spoken with the fifth prince, she might well have chosen the first prince. Yet she deeply despised men who treated women as useful resources only to cast them aside once their utility faded. Such men were inherently selfish, arrogant, and calculating. Even with the heir, appointment 13 days away, she would not subject herself to partnering with someone of his character. Suppressing the turbulent thoughts swirling inside her, she smiled pleasantly. I am impressed by your advantages, Your Highness. Barring unforeseen circumstances, I will give you my answer before we dock. She dared not commit fully, yet had to keep his hopes alive. She feared that if she turned him down outright, the first prince, denied what he desired, would move to eliminate her. So her rivals could not obtain her support, possibly sending assassins after her in the night. Samuel narrowed his eyes, studying her. Sumuja, what exactly are you still hesitating over? Sensing underlying danger, Suyao kept her smile intact. I am one of the most celebrated figures on this planet. My admirers could circle the globe. Am I not allowed a little discretion? Samuel's suspicions melted away. He laughed aloud. Haha, very well. I shall await your decision. Though rated a D rank instance, the constant social maneuvering proved exhausting for Su Yao, who only wished to keep a low profile and safeguard her pregnancy. Hardly had she left the first prince's quarters than she headed for Jingshuan's room. Knock, knock. The door's open, come in. Su Yao entered without ceremony and sat down on the sofa. She relayed all the intelligence she had gathered, omitting only her private speculations and personal judgments regarding each prince. When she finished, Jingxian gave her a thumbs up. Truly the top-ranked player of all servers. You dug up such confidential information. My respects. Su Yao shot him a sharp look. Quit joking. Tell me what you know, so I can get some rest soon. The second prince shared little with me. But I cast a divination. The signs suggest he has promised concessions to another nation which intends to back his bid for the throne. Su Yao stared in shock. You can tell all of that from a divination? How reliable is your reading? Jingxian huffed with pride. Completely reliable. So it seems only the first prince has no interest in seeing their father die. Every other son would gladly see the king perish. Jingxian grew restless and paced back and forth across the room. Exactly. If things spiral out of control, we could get dragged into open war. So, Sumuja, who will you choose? Who will I choose? Honestly, I still cannot tell. Su Yao frowned. She had assumed the second prince was the weakest contender, no match for the well-connected first prince and sea power, wielding fifth prince. Yet he had hidden his ambitions remarkably well. Without Jingshuan's insight, she would have been thoroughly deceived. She wondered whether the first and fifth princes knew of the second prince's schemes. Su Yao stood up. Get some rest. We still have a day and a half left. Very well. Promise you will run your choice past me before you commit. Agreed. Meanwhile, the second and third princes had returned by helicopter to their private yacht. With the throne succession contest at its peak, they dared not entrust their personal safety to outsiders. Brother. Sumuja is carrying a child, the third prince burst out the moment they boarded. Prince Julian, the second prince, halted and looked back at his brother calmly. Even with a child, you must marry her. No, Collins roared. I refuse to marry her. We have endured enough mockery from the royal court our whole lives. If I wed a celebrity who is already pregnant with another man's child, I will never live down the shame. Julian placed his hands on his brother's shoulders. If I fail to seize the throne, mockery will be the least of our troubles. Do you truly believe the first and fifth princes will spare our lives? Collins fell silent, realization dawning. This was no time for wounded pride. 13 days from now, life and death hung in the balance. If accepting such a marriage bought lifelong wealth and security, perhaps it was a price he could bear. I understand, brother. I will marry her. Julian nodded in satisfaction. We lost ground today. Tomorrow we must seize our chance. He glanced at Collins. Younger, looking than the first prince and more handsome than the fifth prince, his brothers still possessed viable appeal. Su Yao returned to her room after leaving Jingxian. So much new information flooded her mind that she needed quiet time to process everything. First, all three royal contenders held considerable power. Second, the old king was likely feigning illness, playing a grand game where each prince was merely a tool for consolidating his authority. Once more, Su Yao felt grateful for her good fortune since her rebirth. Inside this instance, she had crossed paths with Jingxian, a player skilled in divination. Though he likely sought advantage from her status as the top-ranked player, Su Yao herself was far from powerless. Her head ached from overthinking. She forced herself to stop analyzing and prepared to wash up. Luxurious as the Nord cruise liner was, Su Yao never felt entirely safe. She feared hidden surveillance devices lurking in every corner. After washing, she climbed onto the large bed and drew the heavy bed curtains closed. She attempted to retreat to her private island space. Warning, Instance in progress. Access to personal space is forbidden. She would have to sleep here after all. Though she could not enter the island, she could retrieve supplies stored within it. She took prenatal vitamins and health supplements, essential for her pregnancy, which she could not afford to skip. The next day, Suyao slept until noon, when a knock roused her. Pregnancy made her prone to drowsiness. The cooldown for her disguise mask had expired. She put it on and opened the door. Honorable Ms. Sumuja, the second and third princes request your presence for lunch on the second floor dining hall. A steward bowed. Suyao nodded. Very well. I shall attend shortly. As the steward departed, the opposite door opened. Jingxian stood there brushing his teeth. More overtures from the second prince? Presumably, Suyao shrugged. You certainly are popular. What can I say? I am a walking asset. Jingxian gave her a thumbs up. You have my full respect. The cuisine of Lantis resembled Western style fare from the real world, eaten with knives and forks. One notable difference was their heavy preference for seafood. Pork, beef, and mutton were luxuries afforded only by the wealthy elite. When Suyao arrived, the two princes had already been waiting. Both rose politely to greet her. Your Highness Julian, Your Highness Collins. My apologies for keeping you waiting. I slept poorly last night and used to this bed. Collins pulled out her chair. Do not trouble yourself. You are with child and need extra rest. The steward informed us. Suyao eyed Collins in faint surprise. Only the day before, he had recoiled upon learning of her pregnancy. Overnight, his attitude had shifted to eager attentiveness. Such unprompted kindness always meant they wanted something from her. Thank you. Julian handed her the menu. Ms. Su, please order whatever you wish. Suyao took the menu and ordered a steak, 2 signature Lantis seafood dishes, a dessert, and a glass of fruit juice. As she ordered, Julian observed her closely. Spies had reported her lengthy private conversations with both the first and fifth princes. He had underestimated this celebrity. Beneath the surface glamour lay an ambitious woman. Ambition suited his purposes. It meant there was room for negotiation. Once all their orders were placed, the real discussion began. Ms. Su, Julian said, my brother Collins has long admired you. You occupy his thoughts day and night. So they intended to perform a play. Very well, she could play along. Suyao turned toward Collins, her expression a convincing mix of disbelief, gentle sympathy, and soft affection. Truly, Collins? You ought not to neglect your own well-being for such feelings. Collins was momentarily stunned by the acting from both his brother and Suyao, but quickly recovered. He nodded. It is true. I fell for you the moment I first laid eyes on you. I begged my brother for this chance. What are your feelings toward me, Miss Su? Me? Suyao's tone turned shy. Third prince, your appearance fits my preferences perfectly, yet what? Collins pressed eagerly. Speak freely, Miss Su, Julian prompted. Suyao glanced shyly toward Julian, then offered Collins an apologetic look. The truth is, my heart leans toward men of your Highness Julian's character. Julian froze. Collins stared, utterly dumbfounded. The second prince had not expected such a public declaration, yet he did not let it cloud his judgment. If Sumuja refused to marry Collins, her sights must be set on becoming queen. Both the first and fifth princes would surely hold out the promise of queenship to her. Silence hung over the table. Suyao, amused by their reaction, feigned genuine confusion. Your Highness Julian, are you already betrothed to someone else? Julian's gaze turned deep. He saw plainly that she was putting on an act. If he said yes, she would reject their alliance outright. If he said no, she would achieve her objective. The atmosphere grew heavy. Time seemed to drag on. At last, after the attendants had set down their food and withdrawn, Julian spoke. Consider this, Miss Su. The highest position I can offer you is to be Collins's wife. If our father names Collins heir, then you will become Queen of Lantis. Suyao raised an eyebrow. Is that so? I shall give this careful thought. Collins visibly breathed a sigh of relief. Still, Julian's wariness did not fade. He caught the note of evasion in her reply. Uncertainty frustrated him, and murderous thoughts began to form in his mind. If Sumuja would not join their faction, she must never be allowed to benefit the first or fifth princes. Suyao cut into her steak when she suddenly sensed a cold weight upon her. She looked up and met Julian's emotionless, chilling stare. He returned his attention to slicing his food the instant their eyes locked. What was this? He was much like the first prince. Whenever things failed to go their way, they resorted veiled intimidation. Tyrannical royal temperaments. Any woman wed to them would suffer. If this were not an instance where key NPCs could not be eliminated, she would have confronted him outright. Su Yao ate her fill. The two princes across from her barely touched their meals. Before taking her leave, she said, "Thank you for the meal, Your Highness Julian, Your Highness Collins. I shall give you my answer tomorrow morning." "Miss Su," Julian replied, "I assure you, marrying Collins will grant you the life you have always dreamed of." "We shall see. I look forward to it. Farewell." Su Yao departed. Left alone, the twin brothers faced one another. "Brother, what do we do?" "I believe Su Muja has no wish to marry me." Julian's smile turned cold. "If she does not seek us out before we dock aboard the Nord, she must die." Ruling classes naturally held contempt for those of lower station. No matter how famous an international star she was, she would be removed if she stood in his path. Stepping out of her room, Su Yao found herself in the communal dining area. Quite a few players were eating out here. Some sat together in small groups, while two distinct groups of 5 stood out among the crowd. Before Su Yao could get a clear look at everyone, someone called her name. "Hey, Su Muja, care to chat?" Su Yao turned toward the voice. It was the female player known as Tang He Mao. Why not, Su Yao thought. She had been busy dealing with NPCs the day before and barely gotten the chance to interact with other players. With so many players gathered right now, it would do no harm to exchange some information. Just then, a man's voice cut in. "Su Muja, we've got the latest intel. Come over here first." Su Yao twisted her head. Speak of the devil, it was Fan Yibing. Beside him stood his devoted admirer Bing Wanwan, along with 3 other male players. "Yibing, don't you know about waiting your turn?" Tang He Mao shot an angry glare at Fan Yibing for trying to steal Su Yao away. Su Yao smoothed things over. One group at a time. "Gentlemen, please wait a moment." Without waiting for their replies, she pulled out a chair and sat down beside Tang He Mao. Su Muja's words did not annoy the surrounding players. Instead, several of them raised their hands. "Su Muja, we also want to talk. Let us line up. Count us in 2. Su Yao nodded. "All right, I've got you noted." Luckily, the dining space was semi-enclosed, so conversations would not be overheard by outsiders. Since everyone present was a player, Tang He Mao dropped the game persona she had been maintaining. "Su Big Shot, would you join us in backing the first prince? One of our group works as a data analyst, and our calculations show the first prince has the highest chance of winning the throne." "A data analyst?" That took Su Yao by surprise. She quickly asked, "What are the odds?" A male player wearing rimless glasses answered, 41% for the first prince, 30% for the 5th prince, and 29% for the 2nd prince. She had not expected the 5th prince's chances to surpass those of the 2nd prince. Su Yao fell silent for several seconds before speaking. "Think of it like a big spinning wheel. Even though the first prince holds a 10-point lead, the odds for these 3 are actually quite close. Each of them still has a real shot at victory, don't they?" Her remark hung in the air. Everyone at the table, including the data analyst, lapsed into quiet contemplation. Tang He Mao snapped her fingers. "That reminds me. I watched an old variety show from Country K. It had exactly that kind of spinning wheel game. From what I saw, fate never favored the contestant with slightly better odds. Let me give you one final hint," Su Yao went on. "Ultimately, the king's approval decides who gets the crown. There is one exception, though. If a royal heir grows powerful enough to overthrow the old king outright." After hearing this, the players began speculating which prince might possess that level of strength. Unfortunately, none of them had managed to obtain detailed profiles for each contender. Su Yao had no intention of handing them the answers. If she spelled everything out and they picked poorly, they would end up blaming her. Besides, both the 2nd and 5th princes possessed the capability to challenge the old king. And the first prince could count on support from Queen Isolde's powerful family when the critical moment arrived. Telling them to think it over carefully, Su Yao stood and moved on to the next group. Fan Yibing rose immediately to pull out a chair for her when she approached. Su Yao barely spared him a glance. Bing Wanwan was staring daggers in her direction. "Greetings, Su Great God. I am Yibing from Server 73, District 88. It's an honor to meet you." Fan Yibing opened the introductions. The rest of his team quickly followed suit. Su Yao did not interrupt. They were the ones wasting breath, not her, so she saw no reason to intervene. "Hello everyone. There is no need for me to introduce myself. I'm sure you all already know my name. What do you want to talk about? Spit it out." Fan Yibing said, "Here's the thing. We've obtained crucial information regarding the second prince. If you join our team, we are willing to share it with you. Xiao already disliked this man. If not for the dungeon mission, she would not have given him the time of day. Now he expected her to join his group? Overconfident, to say the least. She narrowed her eyes and tilted her chin upward. I already hold first-hand intel on the first, second, and fifth princes. How can I be certain your information won't just repeat what I already know? Bing Wanan already resented Su Muzha. Seeing her haughty attitude toward Brother Yibing stoked her anger. Don't think you can act however you want just because you are number one across all servers. Do you know who I am? This piqued Su Yao's curiosity. She softened her expression into an amused smile. Oh? And who might you be? Before Bing Wanwan could reply, Fan Yibing clamped a hand over her mouth. Haha, pay no mind. Wanwan is referring to her status from the real world. She happens to be the heir to Tungda Chip Corporation. He hurried to smooth over the moment. Su Yao is not someone who would let herself be pushed around. It sounds to me like you are not genuinely looking for cooperation. In that case, we have nothing further to discuss. Ignoring their reactions, she stood and walked away quickly. Every member of Fan Yibing's team wore livid expressions. Hey, Su Muzha. How incredibly rude. Su Yao met with 3 more groups after that, yet none yielded useful intelligence. By evening, she returned to her room. Bing Wanwan's words kept echoing inside her head. Setting aside her real, world player identity, Su Yao considered her status within this dungeon. Combining the team's insider knowledge about the second prince with what she had witnessed during the banquet the previous night, Su Yao suspected Bing Wanwan held an extremely high-ranking position. One substantial enough to bolster the second prince's bid for power. The answer seemed obvious. Bing Wanwan was either a foreign princess living abroad waiting to be officially recognized, or a princess traveling under a false identity to secretly assist one of the princes in claiming the throne. Any other title would carry too little weight to make such a decisive difference. A knock on the door interrupted her train of thought. Su Jia, open up. It's me. It was Jing Xian. Coming. After less than 2 days working together, Su Yao already regarded Jing Xian as her teammate, so she freely shared everything she had learned. The second prince is ruthless. If he figures out I will not side with him, he will likely send assassins after me. Jing Xian answered without hesitation. Don't worry, Su Jia. Now that we are teammates, I will keep you safe. Su Yao raised an eyebrow. Wait, besides fortune telling, you know martial arts too? Leaning against the floor, to ceiling window, Jing Xian looked rather pleased with himself. Do you take this Taoist priest for a joke? I began training under a master in the mountains when I was 6 years old and studied for more than 10 years. Su Yao gave him a thumbs up, then steered the conversation back on track. All right, let's figure out which side we will back. We need to settle on a choice before noon tomorrow, before we disembark. Jing Xian looked over at her. Su Jia, I'd like to hear what you think first. Su Yao pondered for a moment. From a practical standpoint, backing the first prince means backing the old king. The whole point of this succession conflict the old king set in motion is to strip power away from his sons. Honestly, that old man is pretty devious, Jing Xian commented. But both the second and fifth princes have a real chance to fight for the crown. The key difference is the second prince must borrow military strength from others, while the fifth prince commands troops that answer directly to him. Jing Xian had a sudden moment of clarity after hearing her analysis. Su Jia, let's pick the fifth prince. Didn't you say he used to be a pirate and spent the past decade running maritime trade? That's exactly the underdog protagonist setup you read in novels. Su Yao shot him an exasperated look. The boy had clearly read too many web novels. Even so, there was some truth to his reasoning. Prince Karen, the fifth prince, had genuine combat experience. If he ascended the throne, he would rule independently without relying on outside factions. Still, Su Yao was cautious. She had yet to witness his true power and refused to jump to conclusions. Hold on. Let's not rush. I want to see proof of Karen's strength first. She had a hunch that Prince Karen would come looking for her very soon. Understood. I'll follow your lead, Jing Xian agreed. Sure enough, at 9 o'clock that night, someone knocked at her door. When Su Yao opened it, a wall of men stood outside. Looking upward, she met a striking sight. Red hair might appear gaudy on an ordinary person, but paired with Karen's height and features, it radiated untamed, vigorous charm. Your Highness Prince Karen, good evening. Karen smiled. I hope I haven't arrived too late. Su Yao understood his implication, yet pretended ignorance. She glanced down at her wristwatch. It is rather late. It is nearly my bedtime. Karen studied her with evident interest and tilted his chin upward. Gather your belongings. You are coming aboard my ship tonight. This place is no longer safe. Su Yao's eyes widened. Has the danger already begun tonight? Karen nodded. Yes. The Nord will turn into a bloodbath. You may bring your teammate and swear allegiance to me. There were still more than a dozen hours left before the deadline for faction selection. Seo never expected certain parties to act this early. The first prince was a puppet. The second prince wanted her dead. Of all the royals, only the fifth prince had acted sensibly by coming to protect a potential advisor. Su Yao made up her mind. Better to risk backing the wrong candidate than lose her life. Leaning out past Karen's shoulder, she called toward the opposite room. Jingxian, hurry. We don't have much time. The door across the hall clicked open at once, and Jingxian stepped out. He had promised to protect Su Muzha, so he had been listening carefully by his door ever since he detected visitors outside. Even upon recognizing Prince Karen, he stayed on high alert. Give me 2 minutes to pack my things, Jingxian said. Xiao stepped aside and invited Karen inside. Please have a seat, Your Highness. Karen sat casually on the sofa and glanced around Su Yao's living quarters. He asked in an off-hand tone, what is your relationship with that young man? Su Yao frowned in confusion, realizing he meant Jingxian. He is Taoist priest Jingxian. We only recently formed a team. Satisfied with her reply, Karen curved his lips into a smile. Once we reach land, I will announce our engagement. Su Yao nodded. Now that she had committed to the fifth prince's faction, she needed to show good faith. After all, the dungeon had cast her as a top-tier celebrity seeking to marry into royalty. Besides, this was only an in-game engagement. Once she left the instance, she would return to being herself. Su Yao and Jingxian kept Prince Karen waiting only briefly. The three of them took the elevator up to the helicopter landing pad. She had never ridden in an A-12 in real life, yet here in the survival at sea game she got the experience. It was a strange kind of virtual fortune. Someday, she thought, if she ever had children, she would tell them stories. She had been a superstar, ridden helicopters and yachts, and had 3 princes vying for her attention. The helicopter flew for roughly 2 hours before descending near an island. Beneath them lay countless large vessels encircling the landmass. As they drew nearer, Su Yao realized these were not ordinary ships, dozens of warships. Prince Karen commanded an entire fleet of warships. They touched down on the largest vessel among them, the fleet flagship. Crew members stood rigidly at attention on the deck in formal uniforms. They saluted sharply the moment Karen stepped off the helicopter. Su Yao and Jingxian, following close behind, were stunned by the grand display. Su Jia, we are definitely going to win this. You are practically royalty now, Jingxian whispered. Su Yao glanced back and whispered in reply, if I become royal, I'll appoint you chief steward of the palace. How does that sound? Please don't, Su Jia. I'm still just a kid. Spare me, Jingxian protested. Su Yao dropped the banter and carefully examined the warship's hardware. Electromagnetic catapults, complete carrier air wings, this vessel had everything. With dozens of warships under his command, Karen could easily seize control of any small island nation. One question puzzled Su Yao. Lantis was a small island kingdom. Maintaining such a massive naval fleet required staggering sums of money, more than the entire kingdom's treasury could likely support. What exactly was Prince Karen aiming for? He possessed enough military might to stage a coup at any time, yet he allowed the old king to carry on with his schemes. What was his true motive? Filled with unanswered questions, Su Yao followed the fifth prince into the ship's conference room. Several high-ranking officers were already waiting. They showed no surprise upon seeing Su Muzha and Jingxian, instead greeting them with warm, hearty smiles. Karen introduced each officer by name and rank. Then he spoke solemnly to the room. This is Ms. Su Muzha, an international superstar, and my fiancé. The officers exchanged quick glances and chorused in unison, greetings, sister-in-law. Su Yao nearly stumbled backward in shock. She quickly recovered, flustered. Hello, everyone. Karen gestured casually toward Jingxian. This is Taoist priest Jingxian, our new advisor. Jingxian received no such enthusiastic welcome. The officers merely nodded at him. After introductions concluded, Karen activated the large display screen and began laying out battle plans. Su Yao cleared her throat. Karen turned toward her. My dear, is something the matter? Are you unwell? She shook her head. Nothing is wrong. May I sit in on the strategy briefing? A rare gentle smile crossed Karen's face. Of course. You are one of us now. You are entitled to know every detail. Since their leader had given his permission, Suyao said nothing more. Still, she wondered why Karen trusted her so completely. They had only met twice. How could he be so certain she would not switch sides in the final 12 hours? Suyao listened through the entire briefing with lingering doubts. Publicly, Karen planned to host a globally broadcast engagement ceremony in 7 days. Behind the scenes, his armed forces would enter Lantis on that very day, securing key checkpoints across the cities. Additional troops would infiltrate disguised as palace guards to apprehend the old king, the first prince, the second prince, the third prince, the fourth princess, and all important members of the royal family during the ceremony. When he finished outlining the plan, Karen looked around the table. Feel free to voice any concerns. I would rather address them now than deal with last-minute changes once operations commence. At that moment, Jingxian raised his hand. Karen gestured for him to speak. I am a Taoist from the East. May I perform a divination to check whether this engagement and our military action falls on an auspicious date? Suyao spoke up. Jingxian possesses genuine skill, Your Highness. You ought to let him try. Very well. Go ahead, Karen agreed. Jingxian asked for Prince Karen's birth date, for the prince was the central figure whose fate would decide the success of their undertaking. He pulled out a small notebook and several wooden fortune-telling sticks and began his calculations. Everyone watched in silence, scarcely daring to breathe. At last, Jingxian stood and faced Karen. 7 days from now is a highly auspicious day. Your Highness shall achieve your heart's desire. One warning, however, should you miss this window, the next comparable opportunity will not arrive for 5 years. The moment he finished his divination, Jingxian was stunned. It meant that even without his advice, Prince Karen would have succeeded. This was what his master had spoken of, genuine destiny, a man blessed by fate. Jingxian could barely contain his excitement. Back in the real world, clients sought him out constantly for fortune readings, yet most came asking about wealth, romance, or whether their children would get into prestigious universities, trivial, worldly worries. Inside the survival at sea game, he felt completely in his element. He could divine natural disasters, locate treasure, filled zones, and even calculate the fated rise of an NPC royal heir. He felt as if he might float right off the ground. Once the meeting ended, Suyao and Jingxian opened their system interfaces and selected Prince Karen, the 5th prince. Confirm joining Prince Karen, the 5th prince's faction? Yes, Prince Karen has accepted. Congratulations on joining Prince Karen's faction. This faction currently has 2 advisors. Apparently, Karen had only picked the 2 of them. Had he turned away everyone else? Meanwhile, back aboard the Nord. The first prince's faction was already full, yet many players still had no side to join. Chaos erupted in the main hall. What do we do? The first prince's group is full. One player who had successfully joined advised, try the 4th princess's faction. They are from the same royal household. That's easy for you to say, someone retorted. Would you drop out and let us take your spot? Even if the 1st prince and 4th princess are allied, points only go to players backing the winning prince. The 4th princess's supporters get nothing at all if he prevails. That comment laid bare the truth. Players on the Nord rushed to apply for spots with the 2nd prince and 5th prince. System rejection alerts chimed non-stop in their ears. Sorry, Prince Julian, the 2nd prince, has rejected your application. Sorry, Prince Karen, the 5th prince, has rejected your application. Crushed by the repeated rejections, some players quickly submitted applications to the 4th princess and 3rd prince. Their odds of victory were slim, but a lucky break was still a possibility. Before long, those 2 backup factions also reached full capacity. 8 players remained, too slow to secure any faction spot. A middle-aged male player broke down crying. I don't want to get eliminated. Out there I won't find food. That means certain death. Tang Heimao spoke up. Go seek an audience with the 2nd or 5th prince in person. You might be able to change their minds. The 8 remaining players took her suggestion. More than 10 hours remained before docking. There might still be a chance. They questioned stewards and attendants. The 2nd prince and 5th prince have both departed by helicopter for their private yachts. You will not be able to meet them until tomorrow. The news crushed their last shreds of hope. Players already assigned to factions headed off to rest. After the others left, the 8 sat dejectedly in the Great Hall. Then one player spoke. I heard from palace guards that the 1st prince and 4th princess are still on the Nord. Everyone, rather than wait around to die, let's go talk to them. But their factions are already full, someone pointed out. A burly male player let out a cold huff. Who said faction assignments can't be changed? Inside a room on the first deck of the Nord, Sugar, Black Cat had summoned all her team members. Let's all stay in the same room tonight. I'm worried the rejected players might fly into a rage and hunt down those who got selected. Cat, is that really necessary? This isn't an elimination dungeon. Would anyone actually kill people? Cream Ice, Cream, the female player beside Sugar, Black Cat asked. Why wouldn't they? Countered the male player, Mount Tai. Murders happen even in law-abiding societies back home. Imagine how much worse it gets in a survival game with no rules to hold people back. Just stay alert tonight. Don't sleep too deeply, Sugar, Black Cat warned. At 2 o'clock in the morning, all the main lights aboard the Nord went out. Only dim floor lamps along the walls cast faint glows. Suddenly one of the floor lamps flickered, and a tall, powerfully built figure moved past. If one looked closely at the silhouette, 2 enormous lumber axes could be seen strapped to his back. The first floor deck lay deathly quiet. Out of the silence came a sharp click, followed by the soft sound of a door closing. Some time passed. A blood-curdling scream echoed across the entire first deck. Then came a heavy thud as something large crashed to the floor. Everyone in room 102, Sugar, Black Cat's team, jolted awake at once. Damn, what was that? Sugar, Black Cat. It sounds like something terrible happened next door. Sugar, Black Cat jumped out of bed and flipped on the light, holding a finger to her lips to signal silence. She padded quickly to the door, held her breath, and peered through the peephole into the hallway. Minutes ticked by, yet no one appeared in the corridor. Abruptly, a man dressed entirely in black walked past room 102, 2 blood-stained axes in his hands. Every hair on Sugar, Black Cat's body stood on end. Still, from the side profile alone, she recognized the killer. He was one of the 8 remaining players, that tall, reserved male who rarely spoke to others. Sugar, Black Cat drew the blade at her waist and gestured for her teammates to get ready for combat. 3, 2, 1. Room 102 swung open from the inside. Sugar, Black Cat braced herself for a fight, but the man had already vanished from the hallway. At the exact moment room 102 opened, several other doors flew open as well. Players stood in doorways clutching weapons, ready for battle. 2 long trails of blood snaked across the hallway carpet, leading straight toward room 104. Sugar, Black Cat remembered. The occupant of room 104 was the man who had gloated over those who failed to earn a spot the day before. He had brought this misfortune upon himself with his own words. Room 104 gaped like a black void. None of the onlookers dared step forward to see what lay within. Presently, the steward arrived together with his attendants. Only then did a few players follow them inside. The murder scene was a vision of hell. 2 players lay decapitated, beyond any hope of survival. Even the NPC attendants struggled not to retch at the sight. Tragically, the second man sharing the room had been an innocent bystander, killed simply for being paired with the boastful victim. The steward herded everyone back. Honored guests, we must secure the scene and gather evidence. Please return to your quarters. Van Ebing asked the steward. The murderer is still loose on this ship. How will you guarantee our safety? Rest assured, sir. Guards have been posted to patrol this floor. Reassured by the patrols, the players retreated to their rooms. That night, not a single player aboard the Nord dared close their eyes. Meanwhile, aboard Prince Karen's warship, calm prevailed, a stark contrast to the chaos on the Nord. Once the meeting concluded, Suya was assigned to the bedroom next to Karen's. She fell asleep the moment she lay down. Jingxian bunked with the military officers, drifting off amid their rumbling snores. 11 o'clock the next morning. Accompanied by attendants, Su Yao and Jingxian, Prince Karen returned to the Nord by helicopter. Su Yao spotted the players gathered on the open air deck, their faces heavy with unease rather than joy. Su Muja. Over here. Sugar, Black Cat waved her over. Wishing to learn what had transpired overnight, Su Yao glanced toward Prince Karen for permission. She still could not afford to take risks. Noticing this, Karen ordered 2 bodyguards to accompany Su Yao for her protection. The group moved into a private dining room. Once the door shut, Sugar, Black Cat eagerly recounted the previous night's massacre. Su Yao had thought she herself faced the greatest danger. She had never expected players to turn violently against one another out of bitter disappointment over being rejected. It seemed the deadliest threat came not from dungeon trials, but from fellow players. Word is, Sugar, Black Cat went on. One of Prince Julian's players disappeared around 3 a.m. last night, and the empty spot was filled again this morning. Xiao nodded. If that is true, Prince Julian must value the killer's brutal skills. Anyone opposing him will have to stay vigilant. We have aligned ourselves with Prince Samuel, Sugar, Black Cat said. And it looks like you two are backing Prince Karen. Xiao nodded, offering no further elaboration. Yes. Jingxian and I place our faith in the fifth prince. Since they belonged to rival factions, they avoided deeper discussion and soon parted ways, each returning to their royal patron. When Su Yao and Jingxian rejoined Karen, they saw several stricken players being dragged away by royal guards. What has happened? Su Yao asked Karen. Karen let out a cold snort. They imagined gaining entry to my retinue would come easily. Su Yao pressed her lips together, inwardly amused. This red-haired prince really has quite the haughty streak. 12 noon. The Nord docked punctually at Port Lantis. To everyone's surprise, crowds packed the harbor. Su Yao assumed they had assembled to greet the princes and princesses. As the ship drew nearer, however, she saw photographs of herself held high in countless hands. Wow, this dungeon really commits to its setting. She had nearly forgotten her role as an internationally renowned superstar. She immediately slipped into the poised demeanor of a celebrity and waved toward the crowd. Jingxian stepped into the role of makeshift assistant, holding a sunshade over her head. Being a celebrity assistant doesn't sound half bad, Jingxian joked. Do not mistake it for easy work, Xia retorted dryly. Caught up in their banter, neither noticed Prince Karen's darkening expression. At last, he strode over, snatched the parasol from Jingshuan's grasp, and held it over Su Yao himself. Su Yao fell silent. Right. She ought not forget he was her fiancé within this scenario. She quickly shifted the subject. Where will I stay once we go ashore? At a hotel. Karen fixed his gaze on her. You will reside at my estate. Staying in a hotel would put you in unnecessary danger. If Karen were not an NPC of this dungeon, Su Yao would have paid him little mind. He came across as someone craving his fiancé's full attention. The 4 other royal princes witnessed the commotion at the port. They were astonished by Su Muja's immense popularity among the people of Lantis. Their gazes toward Karen turned colder, laced with undisguised envy. How dare the so-called illegitimate prince, lacking true power, win Su Muja's favor? The ship's gangplank lowered. Prince Samuel gestured for Su Yao to go first, as the guest the people of Lantis had long awaited. She took off her sunglasses while descending the ramp and waved to the onlookers. A thunderous roar rose from the masses. Su Muja! Su Muja! Guards and bodyguards formed a human barrier to contain the surging crowd. From the ship, Prince Julian watched, regretting he had not eliminated her during that earlier dinner. Then Karen would never have gained such a valuable ally. Still, 12 days remained. He would find a chance to strip Karen of this asset. The people of Lantis grew wildly enthusiastic. Several spectators tried to break through the security line to reach her. A system notification chimed inside Su Yao's mind. Ding! The royal succession contest has officially begun. Personal quest triggered. Superstar marries into royalty. Quest 1. Complete a live stream within the royal palace grounds within 72 hours. Stream duration. Minimum 10 minutes. Viewership requirement. 100,000 viewers. Quest 2. During the stream, you must speak the line, "Welcome to my future home," with the palace main building or iconic interior scenery visible on camera. Restriction: you may not plan or execute the stream by requesting resources or help from NPCs of your own faction. Reward: plus 15 dungeon points, 1 item treasure chest, unlock 1 piece of hidden royal intelligence. Failure penalty: no direct damage, yet your superstar identity reputation will permanently decrease. Identity-based item effectiveness will drop by 30% in all future dungeons. Good luck with your mission. Su Yao read the prompt rapidly, keeping a pleasant smile on her face while her mind raced. She could not call upon Karen or his people for help getting inside the palace. Typical of this game, designed to make things difficult for her. Once seated in the car, she relaxed her stiff facial muscles. So, Karen said, how does it feel to experience Lannis's fervent admiration firsthand, big name star? Su Yao leaned back against the seat and tilted her head toward him. I have felt it. You had better prepare thoroughly for our engagement ceremony in 7 days. My fans, including many male admirers, will turn out in huge numbers. Then I suppose I shall earn their hatred. Karen laughed aloud. I must go to the palace to speak with the old king. Rest well for now. Understood. When will our engagement be publicly announced? Suyao asked. Karen thought for a moment. In 7 days. A flood of onlookers arriving early would interfere with our plans. Suyao fell quiet, troubled about her quest. An idea occurred to her. She simply need not name which prince she was going to marry during the live broadcast. Karen dropped Suyao off at his private castle, gave instructions to the steward, and departed again. The castle sat atop a mountain. In truth, the whole mountain belonged to Karen, transformed into a heavily fortified stronghold. His personal guards rotated shifts 24 hours a day at its base, ensuring no unauthorized soul could enter. Suyao stood in the garden admiring the blossoms, wondering whether she ought to dig up a few plants to bring to her private island. The castle gates opened once more, and Taoist Jingxian stepped out of a vehicle. Suyao. I was terrified I might lose track of you. Suyao shot him a glance and gestured toward a flower pavilion. Let us talk over there. The castle steward instructed the maids. Please wait a moment, milady. Soon tea and pastries were laid out in the pavilion. Once the steward withdrew, Suyao spoke. Did you receive a personal quest? I sure did. Jingshuan's eyes lit up. Did you too? Mine is to gather intelligence on Prince Julian's faction. Suyao stared at him, exasperated. You must be more cautious. You cannot blurt out quest information so freely. But we are teammates. I trust you completely, Jingxian replied casually. Very well, Suyao said. My quest concerns the old king. We will share whatever information we learn. Got it. What else can I do for you? Suyao lowered her gaze in thought. A thought struck her. I suspect Bing Wanwan possesses some special class. Perhaps she is a foreign princess. Keep an eye on her when you can. Leave it to me. Suyao asked the steward for 2 mobile phones, one for herself and one for Jingxian. Phones had been forbidden at the private yacht banquet, but ashore they were indispensable. Within this dungeon, the player chat channel was disabled. Players could only access their inventory. Call me if anything comes up. I am going to rest. Suyao took her leave and returned to her bedroom. Right now she found herself in a passive position. She was, for all appearances, nothing more than a decorative figure. Even if their faction prevailed, she might not earn high points or rank well on the scoreboard. She had to complete this quest no matter what. She weighed her assets. She owned an item that could alter her facial features, though it carried a 12-hour cooldown. If she disguised herself to sneak out, she would need to wait 12 hours to revert to her superstar appearance before she could get back into the castle. Therefore, she could not change her current face. Her plan was to sneak into the palace using her real features, then activate the disguise item once she found an opportunity for the live stream. One major risk remained. Fan Yibing from Prince Julian's faction knew her real face. They had dined together several times back in university. She would have to avoid crossing paths with him. With plenty of time still ahead, Suyao unlocked her phone. Her contacts included Karen, Jingxian, the castle steward, the captain of Karen's guards, and more. She opened the photo gallery and marveled at how thoroughly the survival game built its setting. It was filled with photos of her, fashion runway shots, everyday snapshots, countless images. She checked her social media accounts. Her in-game celebrity persona Su Muja had officially given her team 2 weeks of leave. The game filled every plot hole seamlessly. Trending news articles flooded the feed. Shock. Top-tier supermodel rumored to marry Lantis royalty. Su Muja to join the royal family. Su Muja arrives in Lantis. Royal marriage confirmed. Prince Samuel and Su Muja. A match made in heaven. Prince Julian and Su Muja. Visual power couple. Prince Colin and Su Muja are true soulmates. Rumor. Su Muja prefers women. Could she wed Princess Serena? Man from Baigan country hospitalized after despair over celebrity's rumored marriage. Condition stable. Suyao stared at the headlines in disbelief. Clearly someone had bought these trending posts. Half of them were complete fabrications, and she doubted Karen was behind them. She felt tempted to post a photo of Karen's castle to debunk the gossip, yet she held back upon seeing thousands upon thousands of unread messages. This dungeon certainly let her experience the life of a real, world celebrity. Drowsiness washed over her, and she decided to take a nap. In her dream, she relived fragments of her past life. New figures appeared in the vision, a blurry female silhouette, a man in Taoist robes, and a red-haired man. When bandits attacked her ship, all 3 stood before her to shield her. Knocking jolted Suyao awake. The steward's voice came from outside the door. Miss Su, dinner is served. His Highness and the Taoist await you downstairs. Su Yao sat up groggily. Very well. I shall be right down. Recalling the dream, she reflected how one's deepest fears often surface in the subconscious. She sighed, freshened up, and headed downstairs for dinner. The castle's ornate, lavish decor did not match Karen's personality. It felt excessively opulent, bordering on decadent. Several people already stood around the long dining table on the ground floor. When Karen saw Su Yao descend, he hurried forward to greet her. Do you like this castle? I do, Su Yao answered. Though it hardly seems like your taste. Karen raised an eyebrow in surprise. Oh? And what sort of taste do I have? You, Su Yao said, are like a sharp blade, a beast in hiding, an eagle soaring above the sea. Karen laughed heartily. No one has ever described me like that. I like it. Once we are engaged, you may redesign it however you wish. This castle is yours. Su Yao's mouth fell open in surprise. Seeing he spoke in earnest, she nodded shyly. Privately, she thought what a decent person Karen was. If only this were not merely a dungeon simulation. Which young girl had not once dreamed of being a princess? Karen had grown up in slums, taunted as a bastard and red-haired freak. As a young man, he had turned to piracy to protect his mother, drawing even worse insults. After returning to the royal court, nobles whispered behind his back that he was an illegitimate outsider. News outlets labeled him the cruel sea tyrant. Hardly anyone ever spoke well of him. Su Yao's sincere praise touched him deeply. For the woman intended to be his lifelong partner, he was ready to give everything he possessed. Everyone took their seats, and the steward began serving the meal. The old king has approved our engagement, Karen told her. Do you have any wishes for the ceremony? I would like an ocean-themed celebration, nothing overly extravagant, Su Yao replied. By the way, will I be permitted to go out these next few days? Karen set down his knife and fork and glanced at her. I'm going away for 2 or 3 days. It's unsafe outside. Try not to leave the castle. If you really wish to go out, wait until I return. I understand, but please trust me. I have ways to keep myself safe, Su Yao insisted. Karen sighed in resignation. Very well. I will assign several of my men to watch over you. Su Yao did not reveal her mission to Karen. After all, the thought of standing before the royal palace and saying, "Welcome to my future home," filled her with overwhelming embarrassment. She intended to finish the task quietly on her own. Night fell and Karen departed the castle. He left 4 highly skilled attendants behind. Su Yao gave one attendant a Jingyan. The second prince was not someone to be underestimated. She then sought out Karen's old butler and asked if he had a map of the royal palace. The old butler froze for 2 seconds before breaking into a smile. Please wait a moment, madam. With that, he headed for Karen's study. While Su Yao sat quietly by the fireplace waiting, the old butler phoned Karen. Your Highness, madam is asking for a map of the royal palace. There was 1 second of silence on the other end of the line. Give it to her. Grant her every request she makes. As you command, Your Highness. Shortly afterward, the old butler returned with a detailed map of the royal palace and laid it before Su Yao. Madam, this map was personally drawn by Prince Karen. A thorough, neat and clear map unfolded before Su Yao's eyes. Please call on me whenever you require assistance, madam, said the butler. Su Yao wasted no time and bombarded him with questions. She asked where the king resided, where the king's mistress lived. Besides the main gate, how many other entrances existed? Which gate did palace staff use to enter? Were employee badges required? Where could one apply for work as a palace servant? Fortunately, none of her questions triggered the system's penalty for directly leveraging Karen's influence. The old butler answered every query in great detail. The palace is indeed hiring new staff for your engagement ceremony with His Highness. You may go to number 78 West Street to apply. They are looking for pastry chefs. Very well. Please arrange a car to drop me near number 78 West Street tomorrow morning. Try not to expose my identity. The butler could well guess what Su Yao planned to do. He frowned. Madam, your face is widely known. Is sneaking into the palace really wise? Su Yao curled her lips into a smile. I spent years in the fashion industry. I know a few disguise techniques. Just prepare 2 sets of ordinary civilian clothing for me. The butler asked no further questions. He bowed respectfully and went to make arrangements. Early the next morning, when Su Yao opened her eyes, she saw 60 hours remaining on her system countdown. She got up quickly, changed clothes, and ate breakfast. On her way out, she spotted Jingxian climbing into another car. Jingxian poked his head out the window. Good luck, Sister Su. Su Yao waved back. Good luck to you. Stay safe. The car carrying Su Yao pulled up outside a villa on West Street. This is also one of His Highness's properties. No one else in Landis knows of its existence, the attendant explained. Su Yao nodded. I will put on my disguise. Do not follow me. Wait here for my return. The attendant looked troubled. Madam, we cannot. Su Yao dared not bring them along, fearing a system warning. After some thought, she asked, do we have contacts inside the royal palace? Yes, madam, we do. Su Yao grabbed the bag the butler had prepared for her and turned toward the door. Good. Wait here for my updates. Stepping out through the villa's side gate, she removed her disguise. Her true face was revealed. She had touched up her features that morning, applying freckle makeup. Landis was a service-oriented tourist nation. Decades of immigration meant people of varied skin tones and hair colors filled its streets. She blended easily among the crowd. She walked to number 78 West Street and spotted the pastry chef recruitment notice posted on the wall. The notice gave no exact workplace address. She stepped inside without hesitation. A middle-aged man sat within, staring down at his phone. Excuse me, are you hiring pastry chefs? Su Yao asked politely. The man looked up from his phone and sized her up and down. We are. Have you brought samples of your baking? Su Yao nodded at once and pulled a paper box from her shoulder bag, handing it over. Please try this blueberry cocoa cake I made. The man set aside his phone and opened the box. Large fresh blueberries dotted the palm-sized cake. He picked up a spoon and took a bite. Fresh blueberries paired with bittersweet cocoa cream. Rich animal cream melted across his tongue, sweet yet not cloying, with deep, layered notes. Delicious. Excellent. You're hired. Hand over your identification documents. Your workplace will be the royal palace. You will report with me shortly. You only get one rest day per week. Su Yao put on an earnest, simple-minded smile. Thank you, sir. Of course. She handed over the identity papers the butler had prepared. While logging her information, the man warned her. Young lady, once inside the palace, focus on your work. Do not wander. If the royal guards catch you roaming, you will lose your job. Su Yao nodded repeatedly. I will work hard, I promise. He continued, don't thank me yet. There is a 3-day probation period. Poor performance will get you dismissed. If you excel, you could become an official royal pastry chef. Wow, really? Is the pay for royal pastry chefs very high? Su Yao asked with eager anticipation. Naturally. Enough to support your whole family, the man said proudly. We would not be recruiting locals if the royal family did not have an urgent need. What urgent matter is that, sir? Just what I've heard. A big-name celebrity is to marry into the royal house. Their engagement banquet is scheduled for roughly 10 days from now. It is too late to fly in world-class pastry masters, so they are hiring local talent. He handed Su Yao a temporary access pass. Come along, young lady. I will take you into the palace. He locked the door behind them and set off. The palace was not far away. As they walked, the man chatted casually. Another celebrity marrying royalty. When I was young, I witnessed King and Queen Grace's wedding. I will never forget that sight. Was it because Queen Grace was so beautiful? Su Yao asked. She was breathtakingly beautiful. But after the ceremony, I saw Queen Grace crying in the royal garden. Su Yao prompted him to say more. Perhaps she was overwhelmed with joy? My cousin cried reading her wedding vows. The man sighed. It was not happiness. She looked utterly grief-stricken. Well, it is all in the past. Queen Grace has been gone for many years. Your generation likely knows nothing of her. I never met her, but my mother adored her. She says Queen Grace was the gentlest, most beautiful woman alive. Exactly. This celebrity, to be? In my opinion, she cannot hold a candle to Queen Grace. Su Yao could only agree awkwardly. Yes, she really cannot. Great. She had run into a die-hard Queen Grace fan, and the woman being disparaged was herself. Palace security was tight. They passed through 3 checkpoints before reaching the kitchens. The man called for the head kitchen supervisor. To Su Yao's surprise, the supervisor was a middle-aged woman. Sophia, this is the new recruit I told you about. Her name is Odette. I sampled her blueberry cocoa cake. It is outstanding. If the man had not spoken her name, Su Yao would have forgotten that her alias on the documents was Odette. Greetings, Miss Sophia. Sophia gave a short nod, wasting no pleasantries. Come, show me what you can do. She turned to the man. That will be all for you, Lenore. You may leave." Without waiting for Lenore to reply, she led Xiao away. The royal kitchen was enormous, nearly half the size of a football field. The pastry section and hot dish section were separated. Each department used its own entrance, and staff were forbidden from leaving their assigned work zones. Back in high school, Xiao had fallen in love with baking and once dreamed of opening her own cake shop. She had even taken professional classes. She had baked the blueberry cocoa cake that morning herself. Castle maids had only assisted to save time, and the box had come from the old butler. Entering the bakehouse, Suyao's eyes widened at ovens as tall as 5 grown men. Her mind raced. How convenient these would be for a cake shop. Sophia observed her reaction. Seeing her genuine fascination, the supervisor relaxed slightly. "Give it a try. Fresh cream and fruit are in the refrigerator." Suyao nodded quickly. She pulled an apron and hairnet from her bag and put them on carefully. She slipped into full pastry, chef mode. She decided to make her signature strawberry, topped matcha basque cheesecake. Sophia had never heard of this cake, nor did she know what matcha was. Suyao handed her a jar of powder. "It is ground powder made from the leaves of a certain tea plant." Sophia sniffed it. She recognized the plant. Tea shrubs were used as garden greenery within the palace grounds. Curious about what the girl would create, she watched closely. In under an hour, Xiao finished baking the cake and placed it in the refrigerator to chill for another hour. It was past noon by the time the dessert was ready. The royal family had finished their meal, and it was staff lunch hour. Kitchen workers gathered in the staff canteen, staring curiously at the unusual cake. Its crust bore a faint green, gold hue none of them had ever seen. Sophia cut the first slice. The center was soft and semi-runny. People exclaimed, "Hurry and taste it, Sophia. It will melt." The first sensation on the palate was the bright, smooth sweetness of strawberry cream. Next came rich, velvety cheese that dissolved on the tongue. At last, subtle bitter matcha unfolded, its tea notes balancing the richness of the cream cheese. Sophia's eyes widened at the complex, wonderful flavors. Her spoon kept returning to her mouth almost of its own will. "Girl, you are a genius pastry chef." As head royal chef, Sophia rarely offered praise. But this dessert impressed her deeply. With 30-plus years sampling cuisine from across the world, she was certain this cake would delight the royal family and become a popular treat in Landis. "Congratulations on passing your trial, Odette. I will present this cake to the royal steward. If it meets approval, it will be served as the engagement cake for the prince's ceremony." "Thank you, Sophia. What will my regular duties be?" Suyao asked. "Patience. I can assign your work only after the royal steward has tasted your creation," Sophia reassured her. Suyao followed her to tour the workplace. Sophia warned her once more against wandering off. Getting caught could cost someone their head. Pastry chefs started work at 5 o'clock each morning and finished at 3 in the afternoon. Behind the kitchen lay the staff dormitories. Conditions were basic, resembling the large communal dorm bunk seen in period dramas. All female staff slept in one huge shared bed. Suyao thought to herself that she needed to finish her mission quickly. Once Sophia left, she was alone in the dorm. She took out her phone and messaged the guards. "I have secured work as a palace pastry chef. You may activate our inside contacts to watch over me if you are worried. I will exit once my business is done. You can head back now." "Guard, understood, madam." She also sent safety updates to Karen and Jingxian. That afternoon, while Suyao was helping in the bakehouse, Sophia arrived with news. The strawberry, topped matcha basque cheesecake had been officially approved for the engagement banquet. Unfortunately, Suyao had very little matcha powder left. Only 2 more cakes could be made. Without matcha, she could no longer prepare the signature dessert. The whole kitchen grew troubled. Just as Suyao wondered whether she should invent a new dessert, Sophia spoke up. "There are many tea shrubs growing in the royal back garden." Suyao's eyes lit up. "Perfect. If I have access to the tea plants, I can grind the leaves into matcha myself." Sophia went to consult the royal steward. He had loved Suyao's matcha cake, so he readily granted permission for her to gather leaves from the garden foliage. Suyao's new assignment was to harvest tea leaves in the back garden. This was exactly the chance she had been waiting for to move about freely. The old butler had told her the palace layout, but she still needed to scout guard shift timings and gaps between rotations herself. Sophia personally escorted Suyao to the royal back garden. As its name suggested, it sat at the rear of the palace complex. According to the map, there was also a smaller front garden. The king and his mistress rarely visited the back garden. Sophia explained the situation to the garden guards, who let them pass without trouble. There they are. Taste one leaf and confirm whether these are the plants you need. Xiao plucked a leaf and chewed it. Yes, these are exactly the tea shrubs I require. She pulled on gloves and began picking leaves eagerly. Sophia nodded in satisfaction. Get on with your picking. I have other duties. You finish work at 3 o'clock. Go ahead. Leave this to me, Xiao waved her off. After filling her basket, Xiao began exploring the back garden, searching for a suitable spot for her live broadcast. Yet light in the back garden was poor, and she could not capture the full main palace buildings on camera. Xiao suspected the system would reject a broadcast filmed here. What was more, word that a global superstar was live, streaming from the royal gardens would spread across the internet instantly. The king would tighten security, and she would never get a second opportunity. She had to succeed in one attempt. She needed the front garden, where the main palace structures would be fully visible. As she turned to leave, her foot caught on a stone. She nearly stumbled flat on her face. Annoyed, she raised her foot to kick the stone away, only to spot a wooden box half buried beneath it. A wooden box, out of place in the heavily guarded royal grounds. Her mind flashed to palace, intrigue dramas, cursed dolls, surprise toy snakes jumping out of boxes. Should she open it? Curiosity won out. After a moment's hesitation, she decided to investigate. To stay safe, she pried it open with a thin wooden stick. Ding! Side quest triggered. The truth of Grace's death quest objective. Uncover the truth behind Queen Grace's fatal car accident 15 years ago. Identify the real culprit. Note, this quest is a critical prerequisite for royal heir succession. Your completion will directly influence faction, story outcomes. Quest reward, plus 15 instance points, 1 piece of hidden intelligence. Hint, the letters and key you already possess may be your fastest path to the truth. Good heavens. She had simply gone for a stroll and triggered another quest. Xiao wasted no time and picked up the box. Inside lay a key and several sealed letters. This was not a safe place to read them. She stored the whole wooden box inside her spatial inventory. She re-examined the quest notice carefully. Official records had always ruled Queen Grace's passing an accidental traffic collision. Clearly, there was far more to the story. Some hidden hand had been behind it, undiscovered all these years. The quest had no time limit. However, Xiao now carried 2 active missions. If she completed her original live broadcast task first, she would never finish investigating Grace's fate. With a little over 50 hours remaining on her countdown, she needed to resolve this new quest quickly. Xiao freely gave the royal kitchen the complete recipe for her matcha cake. She told Sophia she planned to focus on developing original new desserts for the prince's grand wedding celebrations. Sophia was stunned but readily agreed. Outwardly a kitchen supervisor, Sophia was in fact a loyal agent of the 5th prince. 10 years earlier, Sophia's son had vanished at sea. She had pulled every connection she possessed within the royal court, yet none could help her. She chartered a ship to search for him herself, only to be caught in a violent storm that nearly cost her life. By fortune, the 5th prince found her. He saved her life and located her missing son. She owed him an unrepayable debt of gratitude. Her son now served in the 5th prince's retinue, while she returned to the palace as his hidden insider. When she learned the 5th prince's future bride would enter the palace, she had made all necessary preparations. Very well. You had better create desserts worthy of my approval, or pack your belongings and return to where you came from. I will deliver satisfactory new creations as soon as I can. Xiao had not expected it to be so easy. She suspected Sophia was the 5th prince's planted insider. If that were true, a head kitchen supervisor held enormous potential for influence within the palace. Xiao slung her wicker basket over her shoulder and headed once more for the back garden. If a hidden chest with a key had turned up here, there might well be a concealed door somewhere in this garden. Approaching the garden entrance, she presented the badge and authorization slip Sophia had given her. The guards immediately let her pass. Xiao headed toward the spot where she had found the treasure chest. She combed the entire surrounding area, but discovered no traces whatsoever. With no other choice, she scanned her surroundings and walked deeper into the forest. As she traveled onward, a run-down wooden cabin came into view ahead. The cabin's courtyard gate had already fallen off its hinges. Xiao summoned her courage and called out, "Is anyone there?" There was no reply. She steeled herself and stepped inside. A door, eaten away by ants, led into a room furnished only with a bed and a cabinet. These furnishings were the only signs that someone had once lived here. Suyao picked up a wooden stick that had not yet rotted and tapped it against the floor. Sure enough, a stone slab beneath the bed emitted a dull thud. She quickly shifted the wooden bed aside and lifted the slab. A dim stairwell leading down into a secret passage appeared before her, pitch black with no glimmer of light. The dark tunnel frightened her, yet she resolved to take the risk for points and victory. First, Suyao dragged the broken bed to block the entrance. For safety, she pulled a high-powered flashlight and a gas mask out of her spatial storage. She also strapped a dagger and throwing weapons to her person. The opening was just wide enough for one person to pass through. After climbing down, she found no treasure, only an even longer secret passage stretching onward. Suyao advanced with extreme caution. After what felt like ages, the tunnel split into two paths. Stuck with no way to choose, she suddenly remembered the treasure chest she had obtained earlier. There were several letters inside that she had not yet read. She took them out and examined them by the beam of her flashlight. The edges of the envelopes were heavily worn, and the paper inside threatened to slip out. The first letter bore the recipient's name, Grace. The sender's name had been smudged beyond recognition. Even with the flashlight shining through the paper, it could not be deciphered. Suyao unfolded the letter quickly. Grace, congratulations. I heard you're with child. Am I going to be an uncle? Will you come back for my birthday? Your brother Max. The second letter was clearly Grace's reply, written in far neater handwriting. Happy birthday, dear brother. I regret that I cannot return home to celebrate with you. If I had known I would never be able to leave Leica again, I would never have married. I miss you and Mother terribly. Your sister Grace. The third letter also belonged to Grace, and it was plain to see her turbulent emotions as she wrote. He is a devil. This whole thing is a trap laid for me. They will not let me leave, locking me inside this cage. Grace's mood seemed to calm slightly in the fourth letter. K is working to help me escape. He is a good man. Wish me luck, dear Max. Wish that I can flee this devil's all soon. We have dug a passage. Before I leave, I will drive a blade through his chest and escape this living hell. After reading them quickly, Suyao stowed the letters back into her spatial storage. It seemed this secret passage had been left behind by Queen Grace. Judging by the words in the letters, Suyao guessed that one fork led to the old king's quarters and the other led outside. She suspected the destination of the first fork was the old king. Within this royal palace, no one but King Augustus would have been capable of tormenting Grace to such an extent. Grace must have intended to kill the king in the end, yet for some reason, she failed. Unfortunately, Suyao's string of deductions was not met with a system notification announcing task completion. Either her guesses were wrong, or the task required tangible evidence to finish. Suyao held out her hand, testing the airflow from each passage. No air stirred on the left, while a faint breeze brushed across her palm from the right. The left path led toward the palace. Without hesitation, she turned left. She traveled down this corridor for a long while when suddenly she heard voices ahead. The sounds were muffled and indistinct. Suyao lightened her footsteps and dimmed the flashlight to its lowest setting. More steps appeared, narrow enough that she, a young woman, had to squeeze sideways to pass. When Suyao lifted her gaze, she saw that besides the door closest to her, there were two more doors higher up. She decided not to open any door just yet. She needed to confirm whether she was beneath the main hall. After listening for a time, she mostly heard maids and guards speaking in hushed tones. Even if she emerged now, the ground floor would still be extremely dangerous. She could hardly act under the guards' watchful eyes. Therefore, Suyao continued climbing upward. There was no sound of voices or footsteps outside the second door. Suyao slowly pushed open the stone door with minimal force. When a finger-wide crack appeared, she pulled out her phone, activated the camera, and surveyed the room to check for occupants. The chamber was luxuriously decorated, clearly a study. Rows of books lined both walls. This had to be the old king's office. After scanning the space and seeing no one, Suyao let out a quiet sigh of relief. She pushed the wall, door fully open, and slipped inside from the passage. She wondered if she could find proof that the old king had murdered Grace. Pulling on gloves, she first attached a listening device beneath the king's desk. Then she began rummaging through his papers, yet she found nothing but official documents. No boxes of any kind turned up. All at once, faint noises echoed from outside. The doorknob twisted from the other side. Suyao's heart sank. She was trapped. At this critical moment between life and death, Suyao made an instant decision. She rolled swiftly and hid behind the bookshelves. The door swung open and heavy footsteps slowly drew nearer. Suyao was overcome with tension. She held her breath without moving an inch, fighting to stay alive. The man finally reached the desk and sank into the chair. Suyao peered through a gap toward the desk. He was around 60 years old, and his grim, harsh features bore a 9 out of 10 resemblance to the portrait aboard the Nord. Only now, the old king's scalp was nearly bare. Suyao stiffened, cold sweat breaking out all over her back. No one would have guessed that the old king, rumored to be gravely ill, would come to his study in the dead of night. There was no way to flee back to the passage. She could only wait quietly. The old king silently read the documents in his hands. Moments later, a knock came at the door. As if he had expected the visitor, he did not lift his head and said, "Enter." The door opened. Before the newcomer fully stepped inside, a familiar male voice rang out. "Father, how can you stand by and let that red-haired heir marry the chosen bride?" The old king raised his head and stared coldly at his eldest son Samuel, saying nothing. The crown prince clearly realized he had overstepped and quickly apologized. "My apologies, father. I spoke in haste." The old king fixed his gaze on the eldest son, whom he had once held in high regard, and said with exasperation, "You ought to reflect on why you failed to win the chosen bride's favor while the fifth son succeeded." The crown prince said disdainfully, "That boy is just like his mother, skilled at manipulating others." Before he could finish, a teacup flew and struck him. The old king thundered, "Samuel, you grow more reckless by the day." Samuel had just come from the banquet and drunk heavily. The blow from the teacup jolted him sober. He realized what he had just said. To speak so disparagingly of the king's former partner in front of the monarch was courting disaster. He dropped to his knees at once. "Father, I drank too much and lost my wits. I said things I ought not to have said. Please forgive me." Before the old king could respond, the door was thrown open without warning. Normally, the king would fly into a rage at such rude intrusion. Yet when he saw who stood in the doorway, both father and son fell silent. The kneeling crown prince even felt a flicker of relief. The distinct click of high heels echoed, and Suyao knew a woman had arrived. "What is this? Why are you two quarreling?" The woman sensed the heavy atmosphere and rushed to smooth things over. "Oh, your clothes are soaked. Stand up and change, Samuel." The crown prince glanced toward the old king, uncertain whether he should rise. The interruption had blunted the king's anger. He looked at his son and said, "Worthless boy. Be gone." The crown prince scrambled to his feet. "Father, mother, I shall take my leave." Hidden behind the bookshelves, Suyao realized with a jolt that this woman was the crown prince's mother, Queen Isabel. She had heard the queen had long divorced the old king, yet she still moved freely within the palace. Suyao peered through the gap. The queen looked to be thriving. Standing beside her son, she could easily pass for his elder sister. Once the crown prince departed, Isabel settled casually onto a sofa. They say children born to close relatives can suffer impairments. Our eldest son is clearly not the sharpest mind. The old king dropped his formal demeanor in her presence. That applies to immediate close kin. We are separated by several generations. Samuel is not foolish, he is merely weak-willed. Seeing his temper fade, Isabel shifted topics directly. The second and fifth princes are secretly building influence. The second son in particular, reports say he is allied with a foreign power and even brought that nation's princess back with him. Cousin, are you truly not afraid these wolfish sons will turn their blades against you? The old king remained quiet. In truth, he was thinking that of all his children, the second son was the one who resembled him most. Cunning, ruthless, willing to sacrifice anything for the throne. Just like he had once been. Marrying a princess and leveraging foreign support to seize the crown. But Lantis was no longer what it once was. The realm did not need another Augustus. He did not need Isabel's warning to sense the threat posed by Julian. The old king had even begun to consider killing him. He was willing to share power, yet he would never tolerate his sons plotting to overthrow him. Julian intended to join forces with foreign nations to oppose him. Though a plan took shape in his mind, he kept his expression calm. "I know, Isabel. Still, Julian carries my blood." Isabel, failing to achieve her aim, continued stoking his suspicions. "That boy is nothing like his foolish mother. He is a wolf. He may well have learned the truth of what we did all those years ago." That is why he reaches out to foreign lands, plotting to march on Lantis and avenge his mother. Shortly after the crown prince left, Suya had turned on her phone's video recording function. She had only intended to capture a little footage while she was there. She had never expected to hear such explosive revelations. The conspiracy to kill Queen Grace involved more than just the old king. No wonder Grace's letter mentioned she. Isabel was one of the culprits too. What a vicious pair they made. Suya had no time to check whether her mission had updated. The old king spoke again. As long as you remain silent, no one will ever know. After all, Augustus's public image was that of a king deeply devoted to actress Queen Grace. He had earned renown as the world's most devoted man. Thanks to their legendary love story, Lantis had flourished as a top global tourist destination. Investors and travelers flocked to the kingdom in droves. It was the same evasive attitude once more. Isabel felt a tangled mix of hatred and affection for the hypocritical man before her. She hated that he loved nothing but power and wealth. Yet she admired that same darkness in him. While he treated all other women with cold indifference, he had once shown her a measure of sincerity. As the years slipped by, that affection faded away, nearly gone now. Growing older, she had come to understand that power was far more addictive than love. If the old king would not grant her what she desired, she would seize it herself. Hiding the hatred in her eyes, Isabel smiled and bid the king farewell. Once Isabel left, the old king stood and prepared to exit the study. But at that moment, he spun sharply toward the bookshelves and shouted sharply, "Who's there? Come out at once." The old king strode toward the bookshelves. He paused at a weapon rack along the way and drew a sword. The guards had rushed into the room to protect their monarch the instant he called out. Everyone advanced slowly with light footsteps. Finally, the captain of the guard strode forward to search behind the shelves. There was no one there. The captain ordered all his men to comb the entire study, leaving no corner unchecked. When the old king learned the room appeared empty, his brows drew tight. His intuition rarely failed him. He had clearly sensed movement only moments earlier. Just as he was about to dismiss the guards, the captain shouted, "Your Majesty, a listening device has been found." He picked it up and hurried toward the king. The old king saw a small black square, no bigger than a fingertip, resting in the captain's palm. A faint red light blinked on its base. The king's grip on the sword tightened, veins bulging on the back of his hand. Shock and icy rage churned in his eyes. This study was where he handled state affairs and met trusted confidants. Countless policies and dark secrets had been discussed within these walls. For someone to plant a listening device undetected was tantamount to handing a blade to his enemies. Who could it be? The eldest son, who had visited moments before. His cousin Isabel? Or one of his other scheming sons? He roared, "Very well, this is excellent. Captain of the guard, someone slipped past you to place this device. Whose fault is this?" The captain dropped to his knees with a heavy thud. "I have failed in my duties, Your Majesty. Punish me as you see fit." The rest of the guards knelt behind him. The old king took the small listening device and stared down at the men on the floor. "Find who planted it. If you fail, you will lose your heads." After the guards departed, the king handed the device to his chief steward. "Examine it personally. Find out what it has recorded and trace its origin." The chief steward carefully accepted the device with both hands. "As you command, Your Majesty." That night, the entire palace was thrown into chaos because of that tiny listening device. Meanwhile, Su Yao, the one responsible for it all, had long since fled through the secret passage. Minutes earlier, as Su Yao recorded the conversation, a text message popped up on her phone. "Jingxian, danger, Sister Su. Evacuate immediately. I've had an uneasy feeling and cast a divination for you. The signs foretell mortal peril. Whatever you are doing, find a way to leave fast." Su Yao trusted Jingxuan's abilities completely. Without hesitation, she stored her phone in her spatial storage and wriggled toward the secret passage like a lizard. Every second, every movement was a race against death. She pushed forward with single-minded resolve. She slipped into the passage just before the old king discovered her presence, narrowly escaping capture. Yet the soft sound of the passage entrance closing caught his attention. She heard him shout. It was a pity about the listening device, Sia thought as she lay on her bedroom bed. She only owned 3 of them in her spatial storage. Now one was lost, leaving 2 remaining. Even if they investigated the device, they would not be able to trace its owner. It was a basic recording model with no signal transmission capability. Most importantly, the device was not manufactured in this world. Xiao could not fall asleep. She pulled out her phone again beneath the covers. Thankfully, the footage had recorded completely. To guard against mishaps, she immediately sent copies to the fifth Prince Karen and Jingxian. She added a note, "Make backups. Do not share this for now." Karen quickly watched the video. Though he had suspected the truth for a long time, he could not remain calm. After all, aside from Isabel, what woman had ever met a kind end? It seemed his own mother had also fallen victim to those two ruthless figures. Once his anger faded, Karen regained his composure. This video was an invaluable asset for him. He did not even need to post it publicly. If he sent it to the second and third princes, he could sit back and watch them turn on one another. He could not help but marvel at Su Muja's capability. Dozens of spies he had placed within the palace for decades had never managed to get close to the old king. Yet Su Muja had breached the palace and uncovered evidence powerful enough to bring him down. Karen's blood stirred, his heart thrumming with excitement. He forced calm over his emotions, not wishing to alarm his fiancée. He typed a message, "My dear, when will you return?" It took a while for her reply to arrive. "Su Muja, I will host a live stream inside the palace tomorrow. I will head back to the castle once the broadcast ends." Karen let out a quiet laugh reading the message. The woman was even bolder than he was. He replied at once, "Very well. Stay safe. Seek Sophia's assistance if you require anything. Su Muja, I will." Closing her phone, Xiao quickly drifted off to sleep. The day had exhausted her, body and mind alike. As a result, she slept straight until 9 o'clock the next morning and missed work. Can you believe it? We all work in the same quarters. Could no one have woken me up? Su Yao grumbled to herself when Sophia walked into the room. "Do not worry. I submitted a sick leave application on your behalf, so your roommate chose not to rouse you." Su Yao smiled at her. "Thank you, Sophia. Has there been any commotion in the royal quarters overnight?" Sophia nodded. "The entire palace is under inspection, including our kitchens. Hurry and get dressed. The guards will begin searching the living quarters soon." Hearing this, Su Yao swung herself out of bed. She turned to Sophia. "Are guards searching every room right now? Can I begin my live stream? I plan to leave once it finishes." Sophia frowned, fell silent, and pondered for a long while before she spoke. "Very well. How much time do you need? I can only stall for you for a dozen minutes at most." Su Yao's face lit up with delight. She quickly glanced at her phone. "That's more than enough. I go live in 10 minutes and will end the stream at 9:25. Sophia nodded. "Go on and good luck." Xiao turned and hurried toward the doorway, then glanced back at Sophia one last time. "Thank you, Sophia." She truly could not have pulled off entering the royal palace without Sophia's assistance and cover. Even if these characters were merely NPCs within the game, Xiao chose to believe they were living, breathing people. She reached the gardens before the palace's landmark building and crouched amid the foliage to survey her surroundings. Just as Sophia had warned, all the palace attendants and maids were inside the chambers conducting inspections. No one noticed the woman lurking in the front garden. Su Yao slipped on her disguise mask, pulled out her selfie stick and cell phone, and tapped to start her livestream. The stream title read, "Welcome to my future home." Living up to her status as a global top celebrity, thousands of viewers flooded into the stream the very second it went live. The viewer count soon surged to 10,000, then 20,000, climbing steadily higher. Only green plants filled the background, no structures could be seen. Su Yao had planned it this way. Even for a 10-minute broadcast, she needed a proper opening, build-up, climax, and closing. She could not reveal her true intentions right away. The camera framed only her upper body against the greenery. Barrages of comments streamed across the screen nonstop. "Su Muja, is this the garden of your new property? Are you buying a house in Lantis to settle down there? Heard rumors you're marrying into the royal family. Why purchase a residence then? Sis, what brand and shade of lipstick are you wearing? Su, which prince are you going to marry?" Su Yao only responded to the questions she could safely address, interacting casually with her audience. "All 4 princes of Lantis are outstanding. It's not for me to choose. By the way, who is your favorite prince?" Comments rolled in after a short pause. "Crown Prince Samuel, he's so steady and composed." "I pick Prince Julian. His smile is stunning, just like Queen Grace's." "Colin for me. He has such an imposing physique." Su Yao's prompt asking viewers to pick their favorite prince sparked lively discussions, drawing more people into the stream. The viewership shot past 100,000. At the 9th minute, Su Yao lifted her selfie stick and stepped out of the garden. The background shifted instantly to Lantis's iconic landmark, the Lantis Royal Palace. Su Muja's live stream erupted instantly. Question marks blanketed the comment section. Wait, this is the Lantis Royal Palace. At that moment, Su Yao broke into a bright smile and spoke directly to the camera. Welcome to my future home, the Lantis Royal Palace. Against the backdrop of the Royal Palace, her smile shone dazzlingly vivid. Exactly 5 seconds remained on the live stream timer. Su Yao rotated the camera 100 degrees to capture the full view of the palace, then immediately ended the broadcast. She gave the audience no time to type out replies or process what they had seen. Though she cut the stream swiftly, trending news clips would spread without delay. Within 5 minutes of Su Muja signing off, recordings of the live stream circulated across every platform. She claimed the #1 trending spot everywhere. Su Muja streams live from Lantis Royal Palace. Su Muja declares Lantis Royal Palace her future home. Su Muja's audacious statement sparks outrage. Su Muja confirmed to wed royalty. Every major platform was flooded with coverage of Su Muja, and the video spread across the internet. Su Yao's risky gambit succeeded thanks to 2 key factors. First, after the eavesdropping incident the previous night, the king had panicked and activated signal jammers inside his bedchamber. Every member of palace staff was busy searching every hall for listening devices. Second, her timing was flawless. She only revealed the royal palace in the final minute of the stream, leaving no time for anyone to react. Even if witnesses alerted the Lantis royal household, it was already too late. Shortly after the stream ended, ministers, Crown Prince Samuel, Prince Julian, Prince Colin, and Princess Four all saw the video through various channels. They dialed the head steward of the king's bedchamber simultaneously. Strangely enough, the steward's phone showed no signal and could not be reached. They switched to the palace's vintage landline to contact the king, yet no one answered. It dawned on them that something serious might have happened inside the palace. Abandoning phone calls, they set off for the royal palace to investigate. Meanwhile, inside the Lantis royal palace, shaken by the eavesdropping incident, the king dared not use any electronic devices. He had left the palace overnight for a secret residence elsewhere and was not present. The head steward failed to receive calls from the royal family because he was personally conducting inspections on the 3rd floor, inside the king's bedchamber. He only learned about the live stream 20 minutes later. After watching the video, his lips turned pale with fright. He quickly ordered the royal guards to apprehend the woman in the front garden. He then placed a call to the king's secret residence and recounted the entire incident involving Su Muja's live stream. The king fell silent for 2 seconds after hearing the news, then flew into a rage and slammed the landline receiver down. At the same time, Su Yao slipped away through the secret passage amid the chaos. She pulled out her phone as she walked. Right then, Prince Karen's call came through. Su Yao answered immediately. Where are you? I'll come fetch you. Honestly, I have no precise idea of my location. I'm traveling along a secret passage that should lead outside the palace grounds. Send me your location pin. All right. Ever since learning his fiancée planned to stream live inside the palace, 5th Prince Karen had kept a constant eye on her account. He had stared unblinkingly at his phone the moment she went live. When Su Yao proclaimed, "Welcome to my future home, the Lantis Royal Palace," Karen's pupils trembled uncontrollably. Did she truly believe he would claim the throne? Su Muja's bold recklessness made Karen feel as though he had met a kindred spirit, thrills coursing through his entire body. She was meant to be Karen's wife. She deserved to own the Lantis Royal Palace. 10 minutes later, a faint glimmer of light appeared ahead of Su Yao. Her guess had been correct. This tunnel truly led out of the palace. Su Yao sent Karen another location pin, then sat beside the exit to wait. While she waited, she checked her system quests. Both missions were marked completed. With her objectives fulfilled, she had nothing left to worry about. To safeguard herself, Su Yao logged into her social media account and quickly posted a clarifying update. The palace backdrop during today's live stream was AI-generated footage, not the real Lantis Royal Palace. I lost a bet with friends and accepted this live stream punishment. My apologies for causing everyone concern. She attached 3 selfies taken at Karen's castle to the post. Shortly after she published the update, a black off-road vehicle rounded the bend ahead. The car came to a halt. Once she confirmed Karen stepping out, Su Yao emerged from her hiding spot. She called out as she walked downhill. "I'm over here, Karen." Karen shouted back. "It's dangerous." Stay where you are, I'll come to you. Suyao glanced at the steep terrain. Considering her unborn child's safety, she remained in place and waited for him. Karen reached her, took her hand, and guided her carefully step by step down the slope. Once they climbed into the vehicle, Suyao worked up the courage to speak. Have I brought you trouble? Not exactly. Karen had barely uttered the words when his phone began to ring. You should take that call first. Karen glanced at the screen. The caller ID read Augustus. Suyao raised an eyebrow, catching sight of the name. Karen met her gaze, answered the call, and turned on speakerphone. Father. The king's voice crackled through the speaker, heavy with displeasure and anger. Where are you? Where's your fiancé? Karen tugged at his lips, suppressing a grin as he glanced at Suyao. He spoke into the phone. My fiancé and I were playing games at a friend's place. We've just gotten in the car and are heading home. I assume you've seen that video. The backdrop is AI generated. You can ask your steward to test it. Live stream backgrounds can be altered freely. There was a 2-second pause on the line before the king pressed further. And where were you yesterday? Karen replied calmly. Have you forgotten? You tasked me with transporting that shipment to Canaan. I was out at sea yesterday and only returned this morning. The king recalled assigning him that mission and had no further retort. He hung up the phone in frustration. Suyao and Karen could no longer hold back and burst into laughter together. Once they composed themselves, Karen spoke. Even if you manage to explain it away with the AI excuse, you've wounded the old man deeply. He treasures the royal family's prestige above all else, and he will not let this go. Suyao shrugged casually. What can I do then? Stay safely within the castle and wait for our engagement ceremony. Karen looked at her gently. Suyao acknowledged she had acted far too prominently recently and ought to lie low for a time. She nodded. Very well. I'll enjoy my stay at the castle. I hope you have a wonderful surprise waiting for me on engagement day. Karen smiled. It will be unforgettable. Ministers and the royal princes and princess were blocked outside the palace gates. The head steward dismissed everyone, claiming the king's health had worsened and he could not receive visitors. The ministers and royal heirs departed reluctantly in their carriages. As they checked their phones, they spotted Su Muja's clarifying post. AI footage? Could it truly be artificial? They rewatched the live stream recording. The princes who had resided inside Lantis Royal Palace were convinced the backdrop was authentic. They all believed Su Muja had infiltrated the palace. As for her motive, all four reached the same conclusion. Su Muja might abandon 5th Prince Karen and set her sights on their father instead. Since Queen Grace's passing, the king had kept several mistresses but never remarried. It seemed Su Muja's engagement to the 5th prince was merely a pretense. Her real goal was to use Karen to gain access to the king. Su Muja was an ambitious, grasping woman. Crown Prince Samuel felt a sharp sense of threat. He knew full well the king was nowhere near death's door. Samuel began to suspect his father's original plan to arrange his marriage with Su Muja was a ruse. The king's true intention might be to take Su Muja as his new queen. No wonder the king had flown into such a rage the previous night. Samuel immediately dialed his birth mother and shared his suspicions. Isabel seethed with anger on the other end of the line. That old man was 60 years of age, nearing the end of his life, yet he planned to take another wife. How many more women would she be forced to endure over the years? Isabel clenched her fists and spoke bitterly into the phone. Son, how much longer must we endure him? I cannot wait any longer. Meanwhile, within Lantis Royal Palace, the head steward reviewed all visitor logs for the palace over recent days and questioned every subordinate steward. No irregularities surfaced. None of the staff had seen Su Muja enter the palace. As a global celebrity, her face and figure would be instantly recognizable. He placed another call to the king. Your Majesty, should we summon Su Muja for interrogation? The king was so furious, he felt on the verge of illness. Use your head. Presidents and arms dealers count her as fans. If we arrest her now, she could incite her supporters to publicly condemn Lantis. The steward was at a loss and asked, Your Majesty, what course of action should we take? Leave her be for now. What progress have you made investigating the listening device? Your Majesty, the recording captured only your conversation with Crown Prince Samuel and Queen Isabel yesterday. We have yet to identify the device manufacturer. We suspect it was custom-built equipment. Understood. Destroy it. After ending the call, the king frowned deeply. Someone had deliberately recorded their conversation from the previous day. The audio only contained himself, Samuel, and Isabel. The mastermind was likely either the second or third prince. Fifth Prince Karen could not be ruled out either. As for online claims of AI footage, the king remained divided. On one hand, he found it impossible for anyone to sneak into the palace unseen. On the other, he doubted AI could replicate such a lifelike backdrop for a live stream. Regardless of online speculation, Suyao could now rest easy and await the unfolding plot. Both personal and hidden quests were completed, earning her 30 reward points and a treasure chest of items. Her final score for this instance would only be revealed once the dungeon concluded. She read the system's instance intel reward, which contained information about the crown prince. Prince Samuel is 35 years old and remains unmarried, uncommon for royal heirs. A locked portrait of a young man hangs permanently in his study. A line of small script is written on the back of the frame. "I promised I would stay with you forever." Suyao's mouth fell open in shock after reading the intel. What? The crown prince preferred men? If she recalled the instant's opening background correctly, the crown prince's former girlfriend had borne him a child. Samuel had remained unmarried for years to care for that child. Yet the intel provided by the system should not be false. Suyao shuddered inwardly. She was relieved she had not chosen the crown prince. Even within a simulated instance, being entangled with someone hiding their romantic orientation would be deeply unpleasant. She suspected the king and other royal heirs knew nothing of Samuel's preferences. Queen Isabel must have worked tirelessly to conceal it. Otherwise, the king would never have named Samuel his heir. Suyao began organizing all the intelligence she had gathered. She held damning information on the king, Crown Prince Samuel, and Queen Isabel. Any single leak would ruin their reputations. However, Suyao and Karen were not people who chased short-term gains. Rather than destroying them directly, they would sit back and watch them turn on one another. How would the second and third princes react once they saw the live stream video? Would they stay silent or strike back? Following the live stream incident, Suyao kept a low profile. She secluded herself at Karen's castle to rest and care for her pregnancy. Outside the castle walls, events continued to unfold. Most notably, the second prince announced his own engagement. His fiancée was Bing Wanwan, the long-lost princess of the Kingdom of Pass. The pair began appearing side by side at high-profile fashion events. Published photographs captured them walking arm in arm, radiating the image of a perfect golden couple. Their popularity threatened to overshadow the buzz surrounding Suyao's palace livestream. The annual H1 Motor Championship was hosted in Lantis. Global attention turned once more toward the kingdom. The king was truly a shrewd businessman. To boost the national economy, he had ordered land reclamation to build a deep water harbor alongside a racetrack running along the waterfront. The harbor could accommodate super yachts measuring over 100 meters in length. Wealthy elites could watch the races straight from their yacht decks. This glamorous combination of motor racing and luxury yachts drew countless millionaires and celebrities. Lantis transformed into a top luxury travel destination for the ultra-wealthy thanks to this strategy. The championship spanned 2 days. Suyao watched the competition from the castle's television. As usual, the king did not make an appearance. Crown Prince Samuel, Prince Julian, Prince Colin, and the fourth princess attended the opening ceremony. Prince Julian arrived in formal attire alongside his fiancée Bing Wanwan, putting on a display akin to a wedding broadcast. Only Fan Yibing could endure this instant storyline, where his partner was set to marry a royal prince. Once the races concluded, the couple took part in a live media interview. The host asked pointed questions and turned to Julian for his opinion on Su Muja's palace livestream. With the whole world watching, Julian could not avoid answering. "I watched the clip. I believe the backdrop was fabricated." The host then directed the same question to Bing Wanwan. Bing Wanwan already harbored intense dislike for Su Muja. After learning Suyao had streamed from the palace, jealousy and resentment consumed her. She longed to expose Suyao's private matters and drag her from her pedestal. With that thought, Bing Wanwan tilted her chin upward and spoke in a scornful tone. She is carrying a child before marriage and still hopes to wed into royalty. I think she is chasing an impossible dream." The entire audience fell silent the moment the words left her mouth. The second prince also tried to clamp Bing Wanwan's mouth shut. The host reacted swiftly. Barely a second after her shock registered, she pressed the question. "Princess Wanwan, are you certain Su Muja is pregnant? Whose child is she carrying?" Bing Wanwan replied, "Who can say? It might be a child of unknown parentage." Having spoken, she sealed her lips tight. No matter how the host probed further, she refused to utter another word. And so, Su Muja, resting quietly at home for her pregnancy, once again rocketed to the top of trending lists. This time, every headline carried a negative slant. Su Muja conceals pregnancy before marrying into the royal family. Who is the father of Su Muja's child? Who will take responsibility for Su Muja? Bing Wanwan's interview had sparked uproar outside the estate. Meanwhile, Su Yao, the person at the heart of the controversy, had indeed been watching the competition. Yet, she fell asleep after barely 10 minutes, completely missing the scheme Bing Wanwan and the second prince had set to smear her. Jing Xian was the first to call Su Yao, but her phone's ringtone was far too faint. Su Yao slumbered on, oblivious. Prince Kale, the fifth prince, contacted her next. Unable to reach her by phone, he immediately got in touch with the steward. The steward headed upstairs and found Su Yao fast asleep. "Your Highness," her ladyship drifted off while watching television. "Should I wake her?" Kale said, "Leave her be. I will handle this." Shortly after, the reclusive fifth Prince of Lantis, who had never appeared in public and owned no social media accounts, completed official account verification with immense financial resources. He posted an update on the social platform. "Kale, legal proceedings have been filed against Ms. Bing for spreading slander regarding Su Muja. In 2 days' time, Su Muja and I will hold our engagement ceremony at the Royal Hotel, which will be streamed live in full. We invite everyone to tune in." Though his account had only just been verified, Kale had built extensive connections over his years in the shipping industry. Numerous monarchs, crown princes, renowned entrepreneurs, and sports stars from various nations quickly shared his post. By the time Xia woke up, Kale had already quelled the public storm. When she descended the stairs to hear Jing Xian recount everything, she stared in utter bewilderment. Jing Xian seethed with indignation. "Sister Su, that Bing Wanwan is utterly brazen to slander you like this." Xia thought for a moment and answered, "Back aboard the Nord, I fabricated a story to turn down the third prince's advances. I never imagined they would twist those words and use them against me so soon." She pulled out her phone right away and shared Kale's post. "Rumors fall flat to sensible people. Also, everyone is welcome to watch the live broadcast of my engagement to Kale." After publishing the post, Su Yao turned to Jing Xian. "Have you finished your personal quest?" Jing Xian said, "My quest concerns the H1 tournament. I completed it this morning." Su Yao nodded. "This instance may well conclude ahead of schedule. You need to prepare yourself." Jing Xian lifted her head in surprise. "So soon?" "Yes, it is merely my speculation." The old king is steadily losing patience, while the first prince, second prince, and our fifth highness can no longer hold back their ambitions. Su Yao continued. "This instance is billed as a succession battle, yet it is truly a battlefield where an aging wolf fights a pack of vigorous young wolves." There was more Su Yao chose not to voice. The pace of this faction instance hinged entirely on how quickly players uncovered clues. For instance, the video she filmed inside the palace and the secret she learned about the first prince. Leaking either piece of information would ruin his position completely. Likewise, the factions aligned with the first and second princes likely held secrets belonging to their own group. Take Bing Wanwan's live broadcast revelation. Without a swift counterattack, they could have lost this power struggle. After all, public opinion carried formidable weight. Early the next morning, Kale returned home. The three gathered to exchange intelligence. The old king had gone back to the royal palace, yet he would most likely skip Su Yao and Kale's engagement ceremony. Queen Isabel and the first prince had secretly bribed Sophia, the head palace chef, to poison the old king's meals. The second prince and Bing Wanwan planned their own engagement ceremony 4 days later. Word spread that the crown prince of Pa would attend. Kale's original plan was to round up all rivals at his engagement ceremony. But the old king, already jittery following the surveillance incident, forbade both Kale and Prince Julian from hosting engagement ceremonies within the palace grounds. Kale thus settled on the Royal Hotel as the venue. One matter needed addressing at a time. Kale tapped his fingers against the armrest, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips. The toxin the first prince supplied works far too slowly to kill the old man. We shall introduce something far more potent. Time flowed twice as fast within this instance as it did in the open sea survival game. The 9th day in the instance equated to just over 4 days passing in the ocean survival realm. Though Qing'an had not entered the instance, she had kept herself occupied. She helped Su Yao post advertisements and trade goods each day, stockpiling ample supplies. Her vehicle was upgraded to Tier 3 on this very day. Yet no sooner had the upgrade finished than she faced a premeditated raid by other players. For Tier 2 boats closed in on her amid mist and rain. Qingyan immediately pushed her engine to full throttle and fled. As she sailed onward, she gradually pulled away from her pursuers. But she drifted into a stretch of sea shrouded in dense fog on all sides. Meanwhile, the instance of Crown of Power entered its 9th day, the day of Kale and Su Muja's engagement ceremony. Lantis wedding customs dictated ceremonies take place at dusk, so Su Yao and Kale remained at the castle making preparations. At 9 in the morning, Su Yao sat before her vanity mirror, scrolling on her phone as stylists arranged her hair. Suddenly, a news notification popped up. A royal prince captured on video aboard a yacht. A video instantly ignited every social platform. Footage filmed aboard a medium-sized luxury yacht captured 2 men in a private, compromising situation. Thankfully, the video was censored, shielding viewers from explicit imagery. Shot from a tricky angle by an aerial drone, it still clearly revealed the face of Crown Prince Samuel. Su Yao jolted in shock. She forwarded the clip straight to Kale and Jingxian. She could not be the only one forced to witness such awkward material. Shortly after sending the message, Kale and Jingxian arrived one after another. Kale dismissed the makeup artists. Once only the 3 of them remained in the room, Jingxian spoke first. Good heavens, my eyes will never recover. Ugh, Sister Su, why did you make me watch that? Su Yao spread her hands. I had no choice. This is vital intelligence from the opposing faction. She turned to Kale and asked, did we release this? Kale shook his head. We sent the footage you captured to the second prince. This is likely his first move of retaliation. Su Yao lowered her gaze and pondered. The second prince's scheme is vicious. Leaking this video ruins the first prince's reputation while diverting attention away from our engagement today. 2 birds with 1 stone. Wait and see. The first prince's supporters will scramble to clean up this mess, Kale remarked. Naturally, the first prince had the shrewd queen mother standing behind him. The old king might even step in to protect his eldest son. Truly, it helped to have parents ready to bail you out. Su Yao glanced toward Kale, a man who had neither his father's favor nor guaranteed love from his mother. Kale met her gaze, mistakenly assuming she felt anxious about the ceremony. He hurried to comfort her. Do not worry. With me here, nothing will go wrong at the engagement. Su Yao fell silent. She decided not to clarify his misunderstanding. Just then, Jingxian stared down at her phone and spoke. I met several players aligned with the first prince at the H1 tournament. None of them are replying to my messages now. Their camp must be in chaos. Chaos indeed reigned on Crown Prince Samuel's side. 20 players stood listening to a dressing down in the ground floor reception hall. Isabel snapped, what use do I have for all of you advisors? Are you nothing but idle freeloaders? Tang Haimeo, tasked with crisis management, stepped forward under pressure to address the Crown Prince and former queen. Your Highness, we can follow Su Muja's example and claim the video was artificially generated. Mother and son lifted their heads at once, seizing onto this idea like a lifeline. Isabel ordered, you will oversee this. From now on, you manage all the Crown Prince's social media accounts. Tang Haimeo bowed. As you command. All of you may leave. Once the others departed, the Crown Prince dropped to his knees before Isabel. Mother, save me. I waited until we reached international waters to seek private leisure. I never imagined a drone would capture me, whoa. Hatred twisted Isabel's features as she looked at her son. She, a princess from the neighboring nation of Baigua, had given birth to a son attracted to men. For over 30 years, she had concealed this truth, yet secrets could not stay hidden forever. For the scandal to break at this critical juncture of the succession fight meant whoever leaked it had known the truth all along. Claiming the footage is AI generated will not erase the rumors surrounding your private life, nor will it convince your father, Isabel stated. What can I do then? Father promised the throne would be mine. I refuse to accept this, mother. The 30-something prince wept uncontrollably in front of his mother. Annoyed beyond endurance, Isabel raised her hand and struck him across the cheek. All you know to do is cry when trouble arrives? Go wash your face. Soon we will head to the palace to apologize to your father. The slap jolted the crown prince back to his senses. He stifled his sobs and scrambled up to wash himself. Isabel's voice carried from behind him. "Steward, prepare the medicine." The crown prince almost spoke up to stop his mother, yet knowing he had brought this disaster upon himself, he clamped his mouth shut. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Su Yao's entourage arrived punctually at the royal hotel. A senior royal elder presided over the engagement ceremony. This same elder had officiated the wedding of the old king and Queen Grace, and the old king had specially invited him to lend prestige to Kale's event. Naturally, the occasion would have carried greater weight if the old king attended, yet he claimed illness and remained in the palace recovering. Only the senior royal elder of high standing could take his place. Besides the old king, the first prince also cited poor health as his reason for absence. Only the second prince, third prince, and fourth princess came as guests. Truly worthy of a royal engagement ceremony, the venue admitted only invited royalty, relatives, and staff, with no outsiders permitted. The Lantis Royal Hotel was a pristine palace building perched beside a sandy shore. Floor to ceiling windows stood wide open, overlooking pale golden beaches and the ocean. The main stage for the ceremony occupied the ground floor, raised high to become the focal point of the whole event. Abandoning ornate traditional royal carvings, it was draped with double layers of silk gauze. The outer layer was sheer white fabric embedded with pearls and gemstones. The inner layer was a gradient deep blue veil studded with tiny blue diamonds. The cascading shades mimicked the transition from shallow shore waters to the dark open sea, recreating the shimmer of sunlight across waves. At the center of the stage sat Lantis's gilded national crest. The crest's backdrop was assembled from countless mother-of pearl fragments forming a miniature map of Lantis, the royal palace, the artificial deep water cove, Kale's castle, and the Nord, where Su Yao and Kale first met. Hanging from the hall's domed ceiling was a vast disc-shaped crystal blue floral chandelier. As breezes stirred, fractured light rippled everywhere. The ceremony blended regal grandeur with the marine motifs Su Yao loved. Kale had spared no effort organizing every detail. Su Yao almost shed tears moved by the romantic, dreamlike setting. Just kidding. She was only pretending. In truth, she felt close to crying over how stunning she looked. It pained her that she could not record this moment in her true appearance. But for her own safety and that of her child, she would accept the regret. Also for security, Kale's team took full charge of operating the live broadcast. By past 5 o'clock, nearly all guests had arrived. In addition to royal family members and Kale's acquaintances, the remaining players who had survived aboard the Nord were also present. Originally, with the first prince absent, Tang Haimeo and the other 5 players planned to skip the event. Su Yao personally sent Tang Haimeo an invitation. 30+ players thus attended Su Yao's engagement ceremony. Each one thought privately. They came to toil as servants for the princes, while Su Muzha got to experience life as a princess consort. How unfair the comparison was. Yet their envy faded when they spotted Fan Yibing. Man, you have incredible self-restraint. Your former girlfriend's engagement is in a few days. You must hold your temper and avoid angering the NPCs. Fan Yibing shot the talkative player a cold glance. The player immediately fell silent, not daring to speak further. No one could have guessed. His ex-girlfriend from even earlier, Su Yao, was also trapped in this instance, soon to become a prince's consort. He was caught in a double predicament. Fan Yibing stared up at Su Muzha on the stage. Something about her felt hauntingly familiar. Her manner of speaking, her unrestrained way of handling matters, all so recognizable. If not for the differences in facial features and height, he would have sworn Su Muzha was Su Yao, his university girlfriend. Royal engagement rituals were tedious, yet with cameras rolling live, Su Yao maintained a gentle smile through the whole ceremony. After the formal rites came time for guests to mingle and enjoy the feast. Bing Wanwan never took her eyes off Su Yao. This instance was more than halfway through, rapidly entering its final phase. For most of the journey, Su Muzha had commanded all attention and spotlight. Worst of all, Fan Yibing's gaze had been drawn to that bewitching woman. In a fit of pique to make Fan Yibing jealous, Bing Wanwan had agreed to engage the second prince. Her occupation was listed as long-lost princess. At a critical moment, she could reveal her identity and secure favor from Pa for the second prince. But Bing Wanwan had rushed to formally reconcile with the Pa royal family and pushed matters all the way to a political marriage. Her sole aim was to overshadow Su Muzha. Still, she underestimated Su Muzha's occupation as a globally renowned A-list celebrity, a status far greater than that of a minor nation's princess. News of her engagement to the second prince only trended domestically, attracting barely any international attention. At 7 in the evening, the ceremony concluded and the live stream ended. Su Yao and Kale chatted cheerfully with their friends when the steward hurried over. The pair stepped away. The steward whispered something into Kale's ear, and Kale promptly issued several orders to him. The steward hastened toward the armed security guards. Sensing trouble instantly, Sia walked closer and concealed herself behind gauze curtains as she asked, "What has happened, Kale?" A faint smile tugged at Kale's lips, barely hiding his excitement. "My love, the old king has been poisoned by Isabel. He lies unconscious at the palace." Su Yao gaped in shock. "Is it true?" "It is. Next, I will secure everyone within this venue and detain the second prince, third prince, and fourth princess. Will you come with me to the palace?" He truly intended to round up all rivals in one move. Events unfolded exactly as Kale had hoped, beyond anyone's expectations. Su Yao nodded quickly. Yes. The banquet hall doors were sealed shut the next instant. Armed attendants poured in from all directions. They immediately placed every guest under guard. Prince Julian had sensed danger the moment the steward entered. Before he could step out to investigate, guards blocked his path, informing him Fifth Highness forbade anyone from leaving. The second prince finally understood they had all been detained by Kale. Julian shouted, "Kale, what are you doing? Do you intend to imprison every one of us?" Panic rippled through the crowd. Voices called out to Kale and Su Yao. "Yes, what do you plan to do?" Kale strode onto the stage, his face lined with sorrow as he addressed everyone. "News has just reached me. My father has been poisoned and is receiving emergency care. The palace chamberlain has ordered no one may leave Lantis until the king regains consciousness." Prince Colin, the third prince, roared, "If no one can leave Lantis, why detain us here? I demand to travel to the palace to see father." Kale spread his hands. "Unfortunately, the culprit behind the poisoning remains unknown. I ask everyone to wait here. You may depart only once inspectors have questioned each person. This is nothing but a poor excuse. Let me go, I must see father." Serena was the most frantic. She knew her mother and eldest brother had traveled to the palace, and she knew their purpose. Her mother had stationed her at the banquet to distract attention. She never expected her mother and brother would strike so ruthlessly. Kale regarded Serena with meaningful eyes. "Is that so? If I recall correctly, Isabel and Crown Prince Samuel headed for the palace at noon. News of father's poisoning arrived this afternoon." Kale's words sparked realization among the guests. Everyone remembered the first prince had failed to show today. Whispers spread through the hall, and all eyes turned toward the fourth princess. Someone shouted, "No wonder we are confined here. This must be a plot devised by Samuel and Serena." Once attention shifted, Kale took Su Yao's hand and slipped out through a side passage. Julian had been watching Kale closely, but when he glanced toward the commotion around Serena, the fifth prince, and Su Muja vanished. He struggled against the guards, trying to chase them. "Stand aside. I am the second prince of Lantis. Let me pursue Kale." The guards were Kale's loyal soldiers and showed no mercy. They bound the second prince's wrists and ankles with rope. "Your Highness, you would do best to cooperate. Fifth Highness warned anyone who resists will be locked in a holding cell." Even if the second and third princes managed to escape, they would discover Kale's warships controlled every bay along Lantis's coastline. Even if the old king had not been poisoned, he no longer possessed the power to resist. Kale, Su Yao, the steward, and Jingxian raced to the Lantis royal palace. Recognizing Kale, the palace guards let them pass without hesitation. When they reached the front garden, Sophia came forward to submit her report. "Prince Kale, every person within the palace is under guard. Queen Isabel and the crown prince, the perpetrators of the poisoning, have been detained." Kale instructed the steward, "Release the footage her ladyship recorded." He then turned to Sophia. "Does the old king retain consciousness? Can he speak?" "He's just been stabilized. He can speak now. The doctor says the toxin has spread deep into his lungs. He doesn't have much time left." Sophia reported with her head bowed. The group quickly entered the old king's bedchamber in the main palace. Surprisingly, not a single royal guard stepped forward to stop Su Yao and her companions. She could not help but marvel once again at Prince Karen's efficiency. The old king's chambers occupied the entire third floor. Though adorned with famous paintings and lavish ornaments, the space felt oppressive and somber. The most striking feature stood in the center of the room, A four-poster gilded canopy bed nearly 5 meters tall. The bed curtains were drawn open, and a white tube snaked out from within, connected to an external ventilator. Karen stepped closer, and Suyao peeked out from behind him to look. One glance was enough to shock her. King Augustus's face had turned a sickly blue-gray. Suyao had secretly observed the king from the shadows a few days prior, yet he had not looked this deathly ill, teetering on the brink of passing away. It was clear the poison coursing through him was devastating. Why are his eyes closed? Is there a way to rouse him? Karen asked the physician standing nearby. Your Highness, that can be done. The doctor reached out and pressed firmly on the king's philtrum. Only a few seconds passed before the old king slowly regained consciousness. His cloudy eyes rolled sluggishly, and when he caught sight of Karen, a faint spark ignited within them. Karen. The next instant, something seemed to cross his mind, and his gaze turned sharp and malicious. It's the eldest son, Isabella. The old king struggled to form syllables, his body too ravaged by poison to utter a complete sentence. Karen put on a masterful display, speaking with immense patience. Father, who did this to you? Was it Samuel and Queen Isabella? When the old king heard Karen guess correctly, he nodded vigorously. Yes, them. Poison. They poisoned me. Karen's face twisted with grief and anger. Very well, father. I have already had them imprisoned. Rest assured, if anything happens to you, I will not spare them. Reassured by Karen's vow, the old king visibly relaxed, and his breathing steadied. Just then, someone knocked on the bedchamber door. A middle-aged man in a tailored suit stepped inside. He greeted Karen first. Prince Karen. Karen inclined his head. Proceed, Lord Chief Justice. Father can still speak. His condition will worsen before long. The Chief Justice promptly roused the drowsing king once more. Your Majesty. The physician warns the toxin has reached your heart. You ought to issue a succession edict without delay. The old king, who had been about to shut his eyes, was jolted awake again by the minister's words. Even on the verge of death, Augustus's eyes burned with unyielding resentment and barely concealed bloodlust. He had ruled for more than 30 years. Every step of his rise, starting with the murder of his elder brother, had been meticulously calculated. Queen Isabella's family faction had helped him seize the throne. Grace's star power had revitalized Lantis's economy. Once his sons came of age, he leveraged their influence to expand national wealth, then enacted succession laws to pit them against one another. His final scheme had been so close to fruition, yet he had stumbled at the last hurdle, poisoned by his first wife Isabella. Augustus seethed with hatred for the woman. If not for her poison, he could have reigned for another 20 years. Truly, his rise and ruin both stemmed from a woman. He had climbed to power with a woman's aid, only to have everything destroyed by another. The more he dwelled on it, the angrier he grew. Suddenly, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The doctor hurried forward to examine him in alarm, while a maid hastily fetched a handkerchief to wipe his face. The vomiting interrupted the discussion of the succession edict. Everyone waited for him to recover, silently hoping he would name his heir before he drew his last breath. If he failed to do so, turmoil would engulf Lantis. Lantis had no tradition of automatic hereditary succession. The dying King Augustus himself had claimed the throne after killing his elder brother. Ironically, to legitimize his rule, he had passed a series of royal succession laws during his reign. The core rule could be summed up simply: the throne must pass to the most capable royal child. This system avoided the flaws of strict primogeniture, yet it carried far greater risks. If a king died abruptly, there was no clear way to judge which prince was the most worthy. Su Yao and Jing Xian stood at the back, growing increasingly anxious. Why would the old man not pass away already? If he would not die soon, he needed to announce his successor quickly. Once the edict was formalized and Karen secured the throne, they would clear this dungeon instance. Su Yao glanced at Jing Xian and whispered, "Do Taoist practitioners have any method to trigger a temporary revival so he can officially name the heir?" Jing Xian scratched his head. "There are techniques, but I don't carry my silver needles with me." TCH. Su Yao pressed on. "Can you do pressure point techniques to temporarily contain the poison? Like the ones shown in dramas?" Jing Xian stared at her helplessly. "Su, you've watched far too many costume shows. Then what do we do? Are we going to have to wait for Karen and the second prince to fight a civil war to finish the instance?" Su Yao looked utterly defeated. Karen arranged for them to rest on the 4th floor. It was already past 9 o'clock at night. Lying on the bed, Xiao unlocked her phone. Unsurprisingly, the top news headlines blared, conversation between King of Lantis and Queen Isabella exposed. Grace murdered by the King of Lantis and the former queen. Rumors, King of Lantis poisoned, battle for the throne intensifies. Su Muja's engagement live broadcast. Netizens acted like amateur detectives, piecing together clues from Su Muja's live stream. The eldest prince didn't attend Su Muja and the fifth prince's engagement. He must be the one who poisoned the king. His absence doesn't prove guilt. The former queen could be the culprit. Which queen are you talking about? Could Grace's vengeful spirit have returned? The royal family is steeped in corruption. Su Muja, please break off the engagement and don't marry into this family. Su Muja could not resist liking that final comment before preparing for sleep. But just as she closed her eyes, sounds echoed outside the door. Su, word is the old king has woken up. He's drafting the succession edict. Should we head down to watch? Su Yao perked up instantly. Yes, absolutely. Give me a moment. When they arrived, the king was indeed conscious. No one knew what Karen had given him, but his vitality was noticeably stronger than it had been that afternoon. He handed the finished edict to the Chief Justice. Make this public. Su Yao quickly pulled Karen aside and lowered her voice. Who inherits the throne? Is it you? Karen glanced coldly toward the king. If he does not name me, who else is there? Su Yao nodded in agreement. The eldest prince and his mother had sought to kill him. The second prince harbored even greater hatred, driven by revenge for his mother's death. Once the king finished giving his instructions, Karen ordered the stewards and attendants to leave. He stepped before the old king and looked down at him. Where is my mother? What did you do with her? The old king showed no anger at his son's disrespect. His expression remained calm. Your mother left you all those years ago and was never seen again. Karen fixed him with a stare, barely restraining his killing intent. Years earlier, Augustus had seized his crew to force him back to the royal household, all the while claiming his mother was still alive somewhere. Now he claimed her whereabouts were unknown? Karen lunged forward and clamped his hands around the king's throat. One final push would snuff out the elderly monarch's life. The king's face turned crimson, yet he forced out trembling words. Karen, you are the luckiest of my 5 children. At the very least, I never harmed your mother. A dying man's words often rang true. Karen had investigated the matter before, and slowly calmed down, releasing his grip. The old king continued. The nation falls to you. Rule it well. The eldest son is weak and blindly follows his mother. The second son is ambitious yet lacks ability. You may deal with them as you see fit once I am gone. I have only one request. He looked up at the formidable prince, a flicker of supplication in his eyes. Karen nodded. Let Isabella die alongside me. Su Yao listened in stunned silence. What a tragic, twisted bond. He wished to drag his former wife into death with him. Karen agreed. Isabella was already condemned to execution for poisoning the king. The old king merely sought to hasten her end, just as she had hastened his. As Su Yao stood lost in thought, the long, absent system notification echoed in her mind. Ding! D-Rank Dungeon, Gilded Crown of Power, concluded. Congratulations to players aligned with 5th Prince Karen. Your faction has claimed victory. Calculating dungeon rewards. Player, Su Muja. Main quest Faction Allegiance, completed. You swore fealty to 5th Prince Karen, who has now lawfully inherited the throne. Faction victory, confirmed. Side quest, The Death of Grace, completed. Culprits identified, King Augustus mastermind, former Queen Isabella accomplice. Evidence chain secured. Personal quest, a top celebrity marries into royalty, completed. Livestream duration, 10 minutes 3 seconds. Peak viewership threshold met. Keyline, welcome to my future home, successfully triggered. Public opinion rating, 5 stars. Faction prestige plus 100,000. Total personal dungeon score, 100 plus 10 bonus points. Bonus awarded for successfully linking the quests The Death of Grace and A Top Celebrity Marries into Royalty, driving a pivotal turning point in the succession plot. Overall rating, S rank. Rewards obtained, 1 times D rank item chest, 2 free attribute points, 1 Lantis domestic smartphone. Dungeon leaderboard will be published at 11 p.m. on the 14th day of the Open Sea survival game. Please wait patiently. D-Rank Dungeon, Gilded Crown of Power, will close in 10 seconds. All surviving players will be teleported back to their respective vessels. Before teleportation, Xiao quickly glanced toward Karen and Jingxian. Jingxian was overjoyed and did not notice her. But Karen seemed to sense something and whipped his head toward her. In that split second, the cooldown on Su Yao's disguise mask expired. Karen caught sight of her true face. For a heartbeat, Karen appeared as if something had overridden his consciousness. He opened his mouth and called out toward her. Yao Yao! Unfortunately, the countdown reached 0. Su Yao saw his lips move, yet she heard no sound. The next moment, Su Yao materialized back aboard her vessel. The open-sea survival game was still ravaged by a violent storm. She was soaked to the bone the instant she arrived. Damn it, couldn't they drop me inside the cabin? Su Yao hurried indoors and dried herself with a towel. Once settled, she examined her newly acquired rewards. Dungeon rewards were ordinarily scarce. Beyond distributable attribute points, an item chest was already considered a generous prize. Yet she had received an extra Lantis domestic smartphone. She pulled it out of her storage bag. It was the exact phone she had used in Lantis. Its gallery held recordings, the conversation between the king and Isabella, along with her casual selfies. Most surprising of all, contacts for Jingxian and Karen were listed in the directory. Ignoring everything else, she immediately dialed Jingxian, eager to ask what rewards he had earned. We're sorry. The subscriber you dialed cannot be reached. Please try again later. The automated message pulled her back to reality. Of course. This was the open-sea survival game. Cross-instance communication between players could not possibly be permitted. Still unwilling to accept it, she dialed Karen's number instead. The same recorded voice played once more. So the phone was useless out here, no signal at all. What a letdown. She tossed the Lantis smartphone back into her inventory. It might not work on the open ocean, but it could prove useful in future dungeons. Su Yao suspected the system would not award the item without a purpose. Fortunately, she still had the D-rank item chest. All dungeon rewards in the open-sea survival game scaled with dungeon difficulty. D-rank dungeons almost exclusively yielded D-rank chests. Su Yao had never been one to hoard resources back when she played gacha games, and the habit persisted here. If she could open it today, she would not wait until tomorrow. Open D-rank item chest? Yes! Congratulations! You have obtained D-rank equipment, Title Guard Armor. Type, Equipment Light Armor. Item description, manufactured by Lantis Military Arsenal. Lightweight armor woven from deep sea scales and salt, resistant composite fibers, designed for marine environments. Flexible and unrestrictive to movement. Functions. 1. Absorbs 30% physical damage equivalent to a D-rank attack. Provides additional damage reduction against blunt force, impacts, and gunshot wounds. 2. Thermostatic regulation. Maintains stable body temperature, resisting hypothermia from seawater. Effective for 6 hours per day. Durability. 100/100 reparable. Equip requirement. No attribute restrictions. Usable by all players. Perfect. She had gotten exactly what she needed. This armor was precisely what she had been hoping for.